welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following episode. My name is Colton Brown. Joining me, fellow Guardian of the Galaxy, Andrew Meadows.
Hey, we're here. How are you?
But I'm pretty good. Two does not make a team. We need at least three to be a team. Another Guardian of the Galaxy is here with us. It's our regular MCU contributor, resident Marvel expert, I think we sometimes call him, Mr. Henrique Jaime. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Look at us, all three of us, podcasting.
Look at us.
In a circle. What a bunch of jackasses.
A bunch of jackasses. That's
bunch
right.
of jackasses.
Bunch of a-holes.
You happy now?
Well, it's showtime, a-holes. We're here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. It's been a sequel, quite literally 6 years in the making. And I think we have a lot to say about it. But we don't have to talk about that right this second. But we could do a fun fact about it if you guys want. Does anyone care about fun facts anymore? I think we can keep it going if you guys want.
Sure.
Fun fact about Guardians of the Galaxy
Facts are always
Volume 3.
fun. Facts can be fun. They're not always fun, but
I'm curious to
Well,
hear.
I'm
curious to hear what you had, because I feel like I stole yours once. I don't want to. By off,
you don't
off
want
chance.
to
Yeah.
I think it was Ant-Man when we did
Yeah.
Ant-Man. You stole my thunder a little bit. I have a kind of a medley of fun facts.
Medley.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to string it together effectively. We'll see how it goes. So, yes, I said it's a sequel, 6 years in the making. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out May of 2017. This movie came out May of 2023. So 6 years have passed. Now, in that span of time, 6 years, 2017, May 2017, 3 months later, we started our podcast.
Wow.
Watch, Review, Repeat started in August of 2017, which means that we have not technically covered a Guardians of the Galaxy movie full on. We did talk about Volumes 1 and 2 with our MCU coverage leading up to Infinity War, but we've recorded 238 episodes plus some special episodes in the span of time since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out. It's been a long fucking time, so that's my first kind of like jumping off point. Now, the reason for that is something that we covered exhaustively as things played out through the lifespan of Volume 3's production cycle. James Gunn was set to make Volume 3 and then got fired because, he had some old tweets that the right dug up and blah, blah, blah. And so DC swooped in, hired him to do the Suicide Squad, and then Marvel kind of backtracked and rehired him, and then Volume 3, came about after the Guardians, had some other entanglements with the Avengers movies, with Thor and stuff like that. And so we finally come to Volume 3, nearly 6 years later. But I think the most interesting thing about all of this is, and this is something I didn't realize until now, he had already written his first draft in June of 2017. Before he was even fired and rehired, he had fully written and submitted a full draft of this film, which is kind of interesting because if you think about it, like, there's a lot of stuff that probably ended up changing as a result of what happened in the Avengers movies, aka Gamora and such. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and so maybe there's a version where if things don't play out, they still use the James Gunn script without James Gunn, and I feel like you'd probably lose something there, maybe. But so there's that, and I think my other kind of part of the medley is just basically that because things took so long, interestingly enough, ideas that he had in Volume 2 ended up being repurposed in other things. So he's talked about basically how in his original incarnation of Volume 2, Adam Warlock was introduced, and we get our full actual introduction to Adam Warlock in this movie instead, fully 6 years later, fully skipping over the Avengers movies and stuff. And also, interestingly enough, he revealed that he was originally going to have Gamora be killed at the end of Volume 2 instead of Yondu, and they kind of changed it in the development process to be Yondu instead, and then lo and behold, Gamora gets killed in the Avengers movies. And so he said that, even though it was obviously a kind of a roadblock for making Volume 3, like, it wasn't a crazy thing that he had, like, a huge hump that he had to get over in terms of how he made it. So I thought that was kind of interesting, just how sometimes you think about doing one thing and then it kind of ends up, finding its way back into the MCU sometime down the road. So anyway, this is a movie, I feel like, what was it? We did something recently. Maybe it was literally, I think it was Mando season 3, where I'm like, fun fact, like, I got nothing here. I can't find anything on the internet about this fucking thing. Whereas this one, I'm like, I've got 19 fun facts that I can throw at you. I could write a whole goddamn clickbait article about fun facts about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
In production so long.
Well, I actually have one more which is totally unrelated, but I don't want to step on your toes just yet. So hopefully I haven't done so yet. No. But anyway, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have some fun with this.
We gotta hear.
I hope you guys enjoyed my 87 fun facts that I just threw out at you. So what's yours? Let me stop right here and ask you. What is your fun fact?
I had something very small, but I thought it was funny from the interviews and kind of behind the scenes bits that I've watched, and it's that the Chris Pratt that Nebula is carrying in the intro, where it's like kind of the first scene and he's all drunk and he passes out and she's carrying Star-Lord down is like a dummy. They like
I think
they did some
Chris
kind of
Pratt
technology
posted a video or something.
Yeah, there was some kind of video behind the scenes, but they did some kind of technology where they scanned his body and they created a life-size version of him, but that's much lighter
weight.
Much lighter, yeah, because he probably weighs like 200 pounds. He's like 6 foot, 200 pounds or something. And Nebula, Karen Gillan, I don't think is that large to easily hold this giant man that easily. So they created this prosthetic, and it's kind of weird looking. And I think he mentioned, he's like, oh God, he's like, is that what my wife has to deal with every night when I go to sleep? And then I think who was it? I think it was Palm Clementiev said something about like you had to put the doll away so no one did dirty things to it. I was like, oh God.
Who said that?
I think it was Palm who plays Mantis.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good. Well, okay, that was not my last fun fact that I was afraid that I might preempt you with.
There you go.
My very last one, which is probably a more standardy kind of fun fact kind of thing. This movie broke the world record for the most amount of prosthetics used in a single film.
Wow.
What? Over 22,500 prosthetics, 500 wigs, and 130 facial hair pieces that were used to create all of the creatures and characters that you see in this.
Wow.
Which, makes sense, with certain set pieces, like how much is obviously very practically done with makeup and stuff. But does anyone want to hazard a guess at to what the previous record holder was for most prosthetics used in a film?
It's got to be Star Wars.
It's not a Star Wars.
I was gonna
movie.
guess.
Not a bad guess.
I was gonna guess Avatar just because they use a little bit of practical stuff. Just like so many Na'vi.
Not Avatar, according to this article.
Okay, I just thought it was maybe so many Na'vi.
It's a classic Christmas film, if that helps narrow it down.
That does not.
No.
I have no idea.
Is it going to be the fucking
The Grinch?
His heart grew 2 sizes. The Grinch. Is it going to be the Grinch?
It is indeed how the Grinch stole Christmas. Jim Carrey film. Yep.
No way.
Which I guess makes sense because everyone in Whoville is all fucking.
That's true.
Prosthetics. It's not just the Grinch. Literally every fucking character in that movie is decked out in prosthetics. So, yep. I don't know how many they used on that, but they used a shit ton in this one. Let's put it that way. So, anyway.
Okay.
That's a lot of fun facts for you all to enjoy. You guys want to talk some news before we get a chance to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Let's talk some news.
All right. So I think the biggest headline that we did not address on the Mando episode because we were too busy talking about Max and Max tiers and ad-free value light bullshit or whatever they're called.
Streaming platforms.
The Writers Guild of America is now on strike.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you might have heard this. You might have heard this story, about 15 years ago. There was a writer's strike back in the day as well, 2007 to 2008. As I guess if you're Hollywood, you say, well, I could live without writers. There are things that are kind of pressing on, but it is
Chat
something
GPT.
Yeah, who needs writers now?
Yeah. Well, AI is a big sticking point of how we've gotten to this point. I'm going to try to cover this in a way that is not just a 30-minute thing. There's probably a YouTube essay that's going to cover it far more eloquently than myself.
Did you use Chat GPT to summarize your thoughts?
Ask Chat GPT
but I did not do it.
What it thinks about the writer's strike. Yeah.
So basically, the Writers Guild of America was in negotiations for 6 weeks with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, trying to get certain demands met for like contracts, for employment guarantees, and I think a lot of it, well, I think some of it at least was like, fuck AI, like we don't, like let's have protections against AIs basically uprooting our jobs and stuff. So basically, because there was no agreement that was made, we're basically at this impasse right now where the Writers Guild is on strike, which means that writers who are part of this guild are no longer actively writing on anything. So
no good.
You have a lot of things that are, in various levels of production that maybe could continue production depending on where they are. And then you have things that are in pre-production, still writing, where basically everything has to come to a standstill now. And so this will have, I think, impacts beyond what we've seen thus far. It'll have kind of far-reaching impacts depending on how long the strike kind of drags out. We'll see how it goes. And just to clarify, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, they're basically the party that bargains on behalf of all of the studios. So Disney, WB, Netflix, Amazon, they all go through that one channel. So everything that like basically Hollywood goes through them. All of the writers that are credited on all Hollywood projects are part of the Writers Guild. And you have folks that are writers and directors, like a James Gunn type, who's part of the Writers Guild. So there are things that will be affected in ways that you don't even realize, So basically, I'll just say the current projects that we know for sure are impacted in the sense that like they can't do anything. All the late night shows, your Jimmy Kimmels, your Jimmy Fallons, your John Olivers, they're not going on anymore. Those are all shows that have a staff of writers that contribute every night or every week, depending on what the format is. And while the writer strike goes on, they're not going to air. So no more late night television for now. Bunch of other shows. Andor is affected. Season 2 has been filming. Tony Gilroy, who's the showrunner, has stepped away from it. So basically, Andor's at a standstill. Cobra Kai is at a standstill. Good Omens is at a standstill. Although, no, that one's not a standstill. I guess that one's already done. Anything that's basically in there is good. House of the Dragon is unaffected because they finished the scripts. The other Game of Thrones spinoff we talked about, the Hedge Knight, is affected because they weren't done writing it. So that's at a standstill. The Rings of Power is still kind of going through, although basically anyone that's part of the Writers Guild can't be on set anymore, which includes the showrunners. So they're filming it without the showrunners on set right now, which is kind of weird.
And this is because people that are writers that are associated within the guild, they're part of that union, cannot take. They
cannot participate in the writing process on anything right now because of their union membership. Basically the idea is to freeze out the companies that make stupid amounts of money and basically say like, hey, our demands aren't that crazy. We just want to get paid and not have AI take over our work. It's a union for anything, right? And so that's kind of the idea is, hey, if you're not going to fucking meet our demands, then we're not going to work anymore. We're on strike. And good luck getting your shit out the door because you can't. A lot of these like, hey, okay, your House of the Dragon's done. You're done writing it. You can finish that. But like Rings of the Power is done writing, but you have creators involved who are part of the guild. So you're missing people that should be on set. And it's just like, we'll just film without them. Like, all right, Rings of the Power wasn't the best first season anyway, but like, it doesn't bode well either.
What is that a great approach? It's an interesting time to be at strike for something like writing.
Yeah, but it's I think it's affecting the big moneymakers. Stranger Things 4 or 5, whatever the hell we're up to now. Same thing. Duffer Brothers said that they're not moving forward until a new agreement's reached. So it's like this is.
Do they use AI though?
On a lot of things.
Do they do that? We're not in 07
I
anymore.
hope not. Oh God, I hope not.
I think the idea is to not go that route. I think that's one of those classic things. If they did that, then that just pisses everyone off. I don't know. I'm sure this gets resolved at some point. But how and when it gets resolved is anyone's.
Because this is not the same topography that we had in 07.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the issue of why they're striking is because there is the looming threat of, studios can think we can cut costs by hiring AI to just write everything for us, and maybe that undersells the actual value of having actual human voices write things and contribute things. If everything's AI driven,
what a fucking
is it the same level of quality? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. They had an episode on the Daily, I think, the podcast, where they talked about it some too, and it seemed like, in maybe not like intentionally, but kind of the Netflix model was like the precipitating factor for this, where you just like, the writer comes in, they just write, a bunch of episodes for TV, and then it's done. And it's like, well, if I was working for a sitcom that has 40 episodes that runs over half the year, like that's my job for half the year, versus I just do this and they put out like 8 episodes and I work for 2 weeks or 2 months or however long. And then now I have to find a new job. And it seems like they weren't compensated very well too, because they thought like, oh, you'll get like not royalties, but like the after, Netflix puts something out and then it keeps getting viewership. So you would think they'll like keep making money. But it seems like it's not really going to the writers either, so they're just kind of getting screwed in multiple ways.
Yeah. Hell yeah, they get screwed. I just watched something. I can't remember what it was, and it was talking about how it was fucking Barry. Did you watch Barry?
I'm not caught up on Barry, but
neither one of you are caught up on Barry.
Still behind on Barry.
Okay, well then I'll fucking it's spoilers.
I know there's a lot of Hollywood.
Table it for another time, maybe later, maybe another episode.
God, it's so appropriate to talk about right now, though. Ugh, sucks. You guys.
Well, Andrew, you did make an interesting point. Obviously, AI is a big thing, but you said it's not 2007 anymore. That's true, because streaming is not what it was in 2007.
It's true too. And so, a lot of different
components. Where, it was basically saying there was around 100 shows that were scripted in 2007, obviously needing writers. There are over 500 now.
Yeah.
So the need for writers is that much greater because of just the volume of content that gets produced day in, day out. And so it's like, writers are arguably more important than ever. So if you're going to fuck around, with them, you might find out, if you're on the other end of it, the consequences of
fuck around,
not
find
paying
out.
them, a wage and not working with them. And I don't think the demands are, we should get paid more than actors. We should get paid. I think it's just like just want to have like consistent salaries and not, be on a contract work basis kind of bullshit and get fucked over constantly. I think that's kind of the root of kind of what they're seeking. And, when we don't want to get weeded out by AI because that's cheaper. Like that's the idea is, we just want to get paid a fair wage for what we're doing. And clearly you need us, you know what I mean? And so that's obviously kind of the gamble of doing the strike is if we're stopping all of this shit now, like you're going to feel the consequences of that. And so are you just going to deal with it, or are you going to, come back to the table, negotiating table, and do something about it? So we'll see. Again, we'll see how it kind of all resolves. But I will say, as kind of my final point on this, the impact that was felt on the 2007, 2008 stuff, TV-wise and movie-wise, just to give you some examples of how this can play out in practice now that we've seen. Heroes, I think, is the motherfucking poster child for
it. Man. Shook
Excellent
me down to my
first season. Second season, maybe it was always going to be lesser than the first season anyway, but that is a series that took a big hit because they couldn't finish the season. They did 11 of 24 episodes that were planned. And I think they kind of intentionally shortened it, tried to wrap up as much as they could, and really just kind of just fucked it because they were trying to do so much with so little time and so little anything going into it. Stuff like Breaking Bad was even hit because it had a shorter first season because they kind of had to cut it short. Apparently that I guess kind of worked out because originally the plan was for Jesse to be to get killed at the end of the first season, and then because of how things happened, they decided to change that, and obviously that very much fundamentally changed the rest of the series that way. There was a lot of shows that just got cut short. Chuck had a really short first season as a result. Lost got fucked up, had a few truncated seasons as a result. But movies also got fucked up a little bit. You might recall a movie called Quantum of Solace, which was shot without a fully written script. And
that's the one I always fall asleep in.
Daniel Craig had to rewrite and shit like that. And basically he's come out saying like that was a miserable experience because I'm not a good writer. Like that's not what I fucking do. But like I had to write the screenplay with the director, who's also not a writer. During filming, we just made it up as we went.
Yikes.
Which, I don't think it's a terrible film, but it's
I fall asleep.
An amazing film
every time.
I think it's pretty telling that the whole movie is let's just do a bunch of chase sequences with different vehicles, or on foot sequences, and call it a day. Ryan Reynolds has talked about X-Men Origins Wolverine, and said basically like,
oh god, what are we gonna get out of this? Oh.
He had no dialogue. So everything that he says in that movie was shit he just made up on set.
That's why
which is pretty standard Ryan Reynolds stuff, but like it's kind of that sort of thing. So anyway, it's not just TV shows. I think it's mostly prevalent with TV shows, the impact. It's also movies that can be affected. Even now, like Marvel-wise, to go with some Guardians, synergy, like Captain America 4 is shooting right now with a hopefully finished script, so it's going forward right now. Some of the TV shows are going forward, but some of them are kind of at a standstill until they figure it out. Like Daredevil's in the middle of shooting its season of Born Again, and it's been shut down a couple times because of like actual people showing up to the set, and so it's like kind of a weird place where Disney's trying to like keep everything that they can keep moving, but not everything can keep moving forward right now. So we will see how this all plays out, how it all resolves, but it'll probably have a discernible impact for a while to come, would be my guess. So anyway, writer's strike. Just pay them. You got the money for it, is how I feel about it. You got the money for it. Mm-hmm. Like Amazon alone could fucking flip the bill for every other goddamn studio in existence. So like, fuck off.
It's true. Yeah, right?
So anyway, one other Marvel project that is definitely affected by the writer's strike is Blade, which has shut down production for like the 19th time.
Oh no!
Because of the writer's strike. Before that happened, there were two updates for Blade, which should still hold true for whenever it does restart its pre-production and finally get going. Mia Goth has joined the cast, alongside Mahershala Ali. No word on who she's playing or anything like that, but probably a vampire.
Fucking vampire, yeah.
she's probably a vampire. She seems like a classic vampiric kind of actress in my if I may say so myself. But she's great. She's a great actress. So obviously has been crushing it with the A24 side of things with X and Pearl. An Infinity Pool. I don't know. I think it might have been Neon. I don't think that was A24 technically, but
I didn't watch it though. I didn't see it.
But yeah, she's doing well on the indie scene, and now she's jumping over to Marvel. So there's that.
Big get.
But also Nick Pizzaman, Mr. True Detective himself, is also set to rewrite the script when he's allowed to continue rewriting the script because he's part of the Writers Guild. So Nick Pizzolatto, who wrote the first season of True Detective and also the second season, and I think he was involved in the third season. I don't know if he fully wrote it or not. But he's set to rewrite a screenplay, which Blade has gone through several iterations. There was an initial script that I think was kind of thrown out. They brought someone else to come in and write a new script, and now they're bringing in Nick Pizzaman to rewrite that version of the script, which again I think he started, and then the writer's strike happened, and so he'll get around to it when he gets around to it, when he's, I guess, allowed to do so. So, some Blade updates for everyone. Any thoughts on those Blade updates? How are we feeling about Blade?
I'm getting a little worried, to be honest.
Yeah, just production nightmare, just stuck in production hell. Just never going.
We'll see what happens with it. It does feel like, it feels like the MCU is a pretty solid, train. Like, it feels like everything usually moves along pretty nicely. Kevin Feige's got a pretty good handle on things. Things don't really tend to go sideways. But Blade feels like the one example where it's just like, anytime there's bad Marvel news, it's just something happened with Blade, So I'm ready for Mahershala Ali to drop out in the next month or so.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's inevitable. But
it's like Ezra Miller's gonna do Ezra Miller things, and something's gonna go wrong with Blade.
Yeah. Well, if they had cast Jonathan Majors in it, then I think that then that would.
Well, maybe Kang was supposed to be. Maybe Kang was in the script, and now they're like, well, we got to rewrite the script, but we don't even have writers.
Yeah. Well. Speaking of Kang, maybe making an appearance in things. Our last headline before we get into some trailers, we have premiere dates for 2 more Marvel Disney Plus shows for the rest of the year. So Loki season 2, featuring maybe a variant of Kang, we'll find out if he makes the final cut still, is coming October 6th. We'll be getting season 2 of Loki.
Do we have any updates on the Jonathan Majors?
We do not. It's ongoing criminal legal proceedings, so we'll see how it pans out.
I feel like I haven't heard anything damning though over the past couple of weeks.
I think, I don't know.
I feel like it was all out weeks ago. You know what I mean? I haven't heard anything.
I think he or his lawyer put out text messages from the woman, and they thought that would make him look good, but they just made him look worse. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. So, I mean, the lawyer, when it was oh, he's so innocent, and also there's a video that disproves everything, and it kind of just feels like
we never got that.
A fucking lie. I think that might have been a fucking lie. We'll see. I think I might have said as much before. Just knowing what I do, obviously, in my line of work, I will be surprised if this leads to any sort of conviction, maybe a plea, if it really tends to go that way, depending on the evidence. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Marvel's ready to just move on without him. I don't, Marvel's a machine. They're not a train. They're a motherfucking machine is what they are.
True. Yeah.
And I think that they can survive just fine without a Jonathan Majors. So I think if they need to go the route of recasting the literal fucking multiverse villain, I think that they can do it, and I think that they will do it if it comes to it. So I think they're staying deliberately very quiet right now. I think there's a chance. I do think that there's a good chance that Jonathan Majors, whatever he filmed for Loki season 2, stays in Loki season 2. I'd be shocked if they went back and took him out of it and reshot around it. But it's possible. They ain't writing anything new for it. Let's put it that way.
That's true.
So, not for now anyway. But anyway. We'll see what happens. We will, if there are any updates on the Jonathan Majors front, we will definitely put that into an episode where it's appropriate to do so. But Loki season 2 is coming October 6th, and that'll be a one episode at a week kind of drop, the standard Disney Plus practice. And I say that because it's relevant to the next thing, which is Echo, which is coming November 29th, and all episodes will be dropping at once. A Netflix stump.
Yeah. It's my style. I like that. I like that a lot.
Which is following on from her introduction in Hawkeye. Presumably, we'll have some connections with Daredevil. I believe the expectation is Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio will be in some capacity. And it's all about Maya Lopez, and whatever's going on. I guess post Hawkeye with her. So we'll see. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting approach for them to not do the trickle feed with this. My thinking, and maybe you guys disagree, is Echo's not a hugely known character, and maybe if you dump it all at once, everyone kind of get the full story, and that might be a word of mouth kind of deal where people will be more interested. Whereas a week to week approach, people are more likely to drop out.
Yeah, I think that
they don't know who this character is. They don't care as much.
I think the week to week requires enough enough people to like keep coming back every week. Like you just
have to come back 6 times, 8 times, whatever, whereas, if you can finish something in a weekend, like there's a lot of Netflix shows that are bad, but people watch them because it's like, it's a thing
right there,
so.
To make sure I've got the right character in mind, Echo is the character that was actually a deaf character that was cast for the role, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Native American, deaf character, deaf actress. Yep, exactly right.
Awesome.
Like the adopted daughter of Kingpin.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm excited.
So we're getting Secret Invasion next month, I think, right? Yeah, June sometime. I think early June. No, mid-June. Mid to late June. June 21st. Decide where that falls into June as you will. But then we're getting Loki in October, and then we're getting Echo in November, and that will round out
Ahsoka
streaming side of things
for
August. Yes, then we'll also obviously have some Star Wars stuff too. Ahsoka particularly, and maybe Skeleton Crew, maybe the end of the year, but they haven't announced the full date on that. So, but yeah, there you go. All right, any other thoughts on that? We probably looking forward to both of those. Maybe we'll cover them.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least they're coming.
Okay. Why don't we talk some trailers? We have 3 trailers to talk about. I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot here, Andrew, but do you think maybe you could set up the first trailer we're talking about? Performance anxiety is okay if it's if that's what's going on.
Transformers. I can't get it. I'm not there.
I just want the record to reflect. Andrew delivered an amazing Optimus Prime and an amazing Optimus Primal voice performance for me before we started recording.
I can't get there. I'm sorry.
But that was a little while ago, and the moment has passed.
7 BLs later. I've been hitting the BLs because they're 70 cents a beer. But I can't hit the primals right now.
Well, anyway, it's Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. We got a teaser a little while back. Now we have an official trailer. We got a full look at what's going on in Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. It's the Transformers in the 90s. It's Beast Wars, but it's also Unicron. There's a lot going on in this thing.
There's a lot going on.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good Prime. Autobots, transform and roll out.
It's just so ridiculous.
It's a very iconic
Andrew,
voice.
What do you think?
I think that
Prime, give me your face. I rise, you fall.
It's about the survival of humanity. Anyways, Transformers. This one's got gorillas and fucking hawks and shit. There's a lot of visual noise, specifically at the end of this trailer.
Is it more than meets the eye, though, like overall?
It's more than meets the eye.
They do a Transformer sound. The transforming sound. The
guy that's got the best privilege in life is the guy that gets to record the shit. He gets to record all his lines. Like, do you remember when Benedict Cumberbatch was recording that role for, like, Lord of the
Penguins?
Rings?
The Hobbit?
The Hobbit? Yeah, for the Hobbit.
And he was just writhing around on the ground like a fucking dragon.
It's like acting like a dragon.
What a life. Get paid millions of dollars to be a fuckhead rolling around on the ground.
I missed my calling. I could get loaded and then go into a recording studio and act like a dragon.
Oh, man. Yeah, we really did miss the boat on that one, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Why are we lending our voices to a podcast when we could be doing so much more with them?
Oh, man. Anyways, this one's got gorillas and hawks and Porsches that turn into, like, fucking guys with roller skates and shit. It's cool. Although at the end of the trailer, I would say there's too much visual noise. I get. He's like eating
your brain off.
Yeah,
it's like
too
just
much.
like a gray background, and then Transformers just running around.
It's just a lot.
Shit, it's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. This gave me more like Transformers 1 vibes than Bumblebee vibes. Maybe just the scope of it.
Yes, this is definitely more on the Michael Bay side of things than anything.
More than Michael Bay.
So that makes me a little less excited, but I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of the Beast Wars stuff growing up, so
I did.
It's all kind of new to me. Yeah. So I don't know. It's like
fair few episodes in my day. It's pretty cool shit. It just feels like it's just so much fucking going on in this movie.
It's just
like,
a lot.
Is it Beast Wars? But it's still the 90s, and it's just regular Earth. It's not like I feel like Beast Wars was like its own like universe kind of thing. And then Unicron, which is like a mega Transformer storyline of, he's like the Galactus of Transformers, quite literally. And it's like, it feels like a lot of shit to pack into a movie. And so you either do it Michael Bay style and make it 3 hours long. Oh yeah, and you have two characters. You have Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's super easy to tell them apart.
Optimus Prime, I'm Optimal Primal.
one's the gorilla and one's just the truck, but still, like, I don't know.
It's too much. What are you doing?
I think that there's a way that this movie is fun. I wouldn't bet money on this being very good, is kind of how I feel about it.
Could be the most surprising movie of 2023.
I don't know. It's got a vibe with Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe Paramount can go 2 for 2 on, pulling shit out of their ass of making a good movie out of something that looks bad. This doesn't look bad. It just looks like a Transformers movie.
Yeah. It looks like a lot.
Which is like, it's just like not typically a good thing.
Bumblebee was like
it was the exception, but also, as I recall, I think Bumblebee did kind of look bad.
It did. So. It was our most surprising movie of like 2019 or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, whenever that came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe lightning strikes twice. We'll find out. This comes out June 9th, so it's just a few weeks away.
A few weeks away.
Andrew won't have anything going on in his personal life at that time or anything.
I'm taking my baby strapped to my chest to watch Beast Wars.
Go take Baby B to the IMAX showing.
Come on, Baby B, we're rolling out. Roll out.
All right. Any other thoughts on this? I think we might need to move on. And I think we should move on because I think Andrew's going to want to talk about the next one.
Okay. So I'll just head this one off. I fully messed up. I was given the choice to watch 3 trailers for this podcast.
We should have watched all 3.
I watched all 3.
Really, I mean, the choice.
I watched all 3 trailers. Don't get me wrong, but
you selected the order.
I selected the order in which I watched them.
Sure.
And
you started with this next one.
I started with this next one. I chose incorrectly because the rest of the movie just didn't compare.
What is the trailer?
Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2. I am not Emperor in this trailer.
Yeah, which is Dune.
We have to wait for official trailer 2 to get Christopher Walken's Dune debut, but we do get other debuts in this.
Yeah,
and so
I had to.
But we get the return of the woman. I think
the sound.
We talked about this.
Yeah, and the drums
in the special episode. The soundtrack, the woman, that sort of business.
So I told Henrique. Henrique told me that I might have to get it checked out. But we saw this. Whoever did our trailer reel for Guardians. They put this trailer first, I think.
It was pretty early.
In sequence? Yeah, they did the same thing. They put it first, and then nothing.
You're like, I don't care anymore.
I don't care anymore. Anyways, but when that woman sang, whoa, 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 and she was fucking screaming, I was like, all the fucking hairs on the back of my neck just stood up.
And then you get some of the drums too.
Yeah, like I'm primal. Like I'm ready to. It's just, oh man, what a score! Yeah. This
turn on your
trailer is
You're ready?
We get, specifically in our generation, like even before our generation, like you could go back to the 80s and maybe the 70s, maybe as far back as the 70s, I'm not sure. You get one movie per I feel like per like generation or per 10 years or something like that just transports you to a different thing. Like it represents something so much more. So, I mean, you have Star Wars, you have Lord of the Rings, and you have Dune. And Dune is just it just represents so much more. You have the culmination of all the actors and actresses, the directorial, like, fucking synergy, like pulling everybody together and pointing them in a direction and telling them to go. You got the cinematography, you got the score. Like, you have everybody on the fucking same page to deliver something that is just incredibly massive. And this is a 2-part event. Like, we had Dune Part 1, now we have Dune Part 2. And it's just so much. Trailer 2 looks absolutely on par, totally absurd. Like, turn it up to 11. This is ultimate filmmaking, sci-fi filmmaking at its best. And I could not be more excited. Was
this your most hyped film of this year?
Most hyped film of this year. Yeah, for sure. I say that and I can't like immediately recall everything that's supposed to come out this year. But after watching this trailer,
I was going to say Spider-Man.
Yeah, okay, Spider-Man's coming out. Dune's coming out. Dune Part 2's coming out. So I'm sorry. Dune Part 2.
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones coming out.
The Flash. Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
All right.
Dune Part 2's coming out.
You're still taking Dune? All right. Brought out the heavy hitters for that one.
I highly recommend anybody like Dune Part 2, the trailer came out. Yeah, watch the official IMAX trailer on YouTube. The image quality doesn't get degraded as much. It's a beautiful fucking trailer on YouTube. And it looks outstanding. It's trans I can't think of the word. I can't think of my words.
Transport you?
Transcendent?
It's transcendent. It transports you into a different fucking world. The world that it captures on screen is just it's a different kind of fucking movie. It's a different kind of movie. The first one was a different movie. This is a different kind of movie. And these kinds of movies don't come out but I would say probably once every 10 years. You get somebody that really takes the medium of filmmaking once a decade. That's my word, decade. Denny.
That son of a bitch, Dennis Villeneuve.
Yeah, you get one filmmaker that really just gets a hold of something that is just empowering to them, and they can really take the viewer to a different world. And I mean, it doesn't happen very often. This trailer really gets me hyped as fuck, just like the first one did. Is it not incredible? What type of movies are these movies? Both of you saw these movies. Don't let me be alone with my BLs talking about
I thought it looked like shit personally. So I'm not even slightly hyped. Aquaman 2 is obviously where I'm staking my hopes and dreams for this year.
Well, I didn't like that Austin Butler doesn't wear a Speedo. I think you just really gotta.
I didn't. Where's his pompadour? I mean, this motherfucker's bald. Like, what's he doing? He's in black and white half the time? What's going on here?
You fucking guys.
That Dennis guy, I don't think he knows what he's doing anymore. I think he's lost the plot. No, I'm just kidding. Dune Part 2 looks fantastic. Cinematography looks aces. Obviously, we know obviously the directorial prowess, behind it. We know obviously. I think for me the exciting thing about Dune Part 2 is Dune Part 1 was very much Part 1. Part 2 is finishing the book, you know what I mean? And like really bringing it home. And there's so much characters and details from the first one. Like you didn't get Fade Rautha. Now you're getting him here with Austin Butler. There's a lot of like kind of stuff that they still managed to withhold from that first one that now they can just bring it all together, and you know that it's going to be a satisfying thing. And I know, like Denny's talked about how, he could do, a third movie that does the second book and stuff like that. But, most books are standalone, and I think the book of Dune is no exception. And I just think it's going to be, I don't know. I think as much as I liked the first one, and I think it's a fantastic film, and it may have been my number one of the year. I think there's potential for this one because it's not just a sequel where it's just like, oh God, we have to do the first one but better. Like, no, it's finishing the story.
Right.
Like the first one ended in such a place where it's just like, oh, yeah. Well, I want more now. Like where does the rest of the story?
That's probably
go?
the biggest critique
of
the first one. It's like, it's not the whole story. It's not the whole story, and now we get the whole story.
Yeah, it's part one, and now we get to see the rest. It's awesome,
man. And the biggest thing is like it's a continuation of what you started in the first one, but the characters are they're set on such a trajectory, right? Like,
but we know these characters now. We know Paul Atreides. We know, we sort of know Ashani. We don't really know her that well. She was in it for like 2 minutes in the other one. But we know Lady Jessica a little bit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're no Oscar Isaac here. But you got an Austin Butler, you're getting fucking Florence Pugh, you're getting a Christopher Walken,
huge,
and like other people that were amazing in that first film, Stellan Skarsgård back, Javier Bardem back, like we're gonna get some of these characters and
Timothy Chalamet is back.
Timothy, can't forget about Timmy. Yeah, no, that was rude.
Chip and shatter, motherfuckers! I got this fucking blade. I'm gonna fuck you up. Yeah. I can see into the future and shit with my spice. Yeah. Oh, dude. It's so cool. Oh, man.
Yes. I am very hyped. It's coming to theaters November 3rd. I will say that. Just throwing that out there. So we do have a little bit of wait, ahead of us, half a year roughly, but it looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've said enough on it. I mean, you want to say anymore.
I don't know what else to say. I just want to watch this thing, and I think if this is as good as we hope, it probably makes part one even better, because then it just becomes like a package, and now it's just like, oh, look at this fucking
like
spectacular.
Like,
right,
you can enjoy them individually, but seeing them all three together, is
when
awesome.
you put the whole thing together, you get something special. So that's what I'm hoping that we're getting here, and this is one hell of a trailer to start off.
Yes, indeed. Seems to be firing on all cylinders. Well, we have one more trailer. And it is for Christopher Nolan's next film, the IMAX shot epic thriller that thrusts audiences into the pulse-pounding paradox of the enigmatic man who must risk destroying the world in order to save it. Yes, I read that from the YouTube description. It's the new trailer for Oppenheimer, with a really fantastic cast in this one as well. Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, also Florence Pugh,
killing it,
and many, many others that I'm not
Albert Einstein's in this.
Albert Einstein is playing himself in this. It's very exciting. So I have one thought I just want to throw out right out the gate. I've seen this new trailer twice. I saw it once ahead of Guardians and Dolby, and I've seen it once at home on my TV on YouTube. When I watched this in Dolby, the sound mixing was indecipherable bullshit. Classic so loud. Bullshit, where it was so fucking loud. I couldn't understand any of the dialogue. It was like watching Tenet all over again. Or Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, and I was like, "What? What did he say?" And
like fucking explosions.
And so, it was cool, and I dug it, but I didn't really get a lot out of it because I'm like, I'm not entirely sure what I just watched. I watched this at home, and I thought the mixing would be the same thing, where it would just be the music really fucking loud. I heard every line of dialogue. Mm-hmm. I don't understand what, is it literally just, it's just so loud that I can't pull dialogue out of it? It's almost like if you get too close to the microphone and you shout in and it peaks or something like that. It was like that perpetually in the cinema, but it wasn't like that at home. I cannot explain it, but anyway, I enjoyed watching it at home. It was far less impactful in terms of the loudness of it, but I was like, oh, that's what they said. That's what he said. So I'm hesitant to watch this in IMAX because I just am worried that, without subtitles, I'm going to be lost.
But I kind of want to.
And definitely don't take Baby B to the IMAX. So that little boy's going to have some hearing issues for life. But even Dolby, I'm kind of just like, well, Dolby's kind of the easiest way to see things. That's how I usually see
Dolby's
things.
Dolby's loud, man.
But I was like, that was fucking loud. I don't even know if I want to do Dolby. I mean, I will do Dolby for this. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like a little worried now. Anyway, I do think it looks good, but I had to say all of that. I'll turn it over to whoever wants to speak next. What'd you guys think about Oppenheimer? I mean, it's Christopher Nolan. So.
Right. No, I'm pretty hyped for this. It looks good. It sounds super fucking loud, like incredibly, but I'm just like, I just go in, I'm like, let's do it. It's gonna be a big bomb and little Geiger counters and just building this thing and then the score is just gonna be excessively. Is this Hans Zimmer or is
it's definitely Hans Zimmer, no doubt.
Or no, because last time it was our boy Ludwig. Is it Ludwig again?
I think it's gonna be Ludwig.
You think he went Ludwig? No way.
He got Ludwig for
Hans Zimmer is doing it about.
Mm-hmm.
It
is Ludwig. Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Hans Zimmer's busy. Yeah. He can phone it in for a Wonder Woman, but then he takes time for something like a Dune Part 1 and a Part 2. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we know the Geiger counter. Ludwig he's definitely going to take on that. You're going to have a lot of whatever.
Get a little Dunkirky with it.
It's going to be a good score. I mean, Ludwig's something else. Anyways,
he knows what he's doing.
I watched I can't remember where or how I watched a featurette for the making of this movie, but the creation of the explosion is something like Nolan-esque, it's super practical and he created a nuclear bomb. Sort of. And you can't visit wherever he detonated this bomb because there's nuclear fallout and shit. It was really cool. And I think that this movie is going to be something very special, especially in the climate that we're all in with just with everything. Just seems like everybody's at each other's throats as far as China and just politics in general right now. The climate of national politics is distressing. And I think it's going to be a very appropriate movie. And I think that it's very well acted. I got a lot of really powerful vibes from all the actors and stuff involved. And I'm really excited about this movie. I think it's going to be somber. But I do think it's going to be a powerful movie. Not excited in the same way that I am about Dune, but I do think that this is a powerful, important movie to tell. And I think it's one of those movies that can kind of harken back to, just pull us back from history and come on, guys, let's learn from the things that we've done in our past and help us forward. And I think it's going to be a powerful movie. So, very excited. I'm very excited about the practical and special effects in this movie and how they're blended together. And I am excited to be deafened by the sound design. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be loud. We can say that with all certainty. It will be in theaters July 21st.
Oh, it's very, very, very
away.
Close.
So yeah.
Cillian Murphy said, I'm not saying it because I'm in the fucking thing in his accent, but Oppenheimer is the best script he's ever read, which, I feel like actors generally say nice things before movies, but they've worked together quite a bit, so we'll see.
That's still high praise nonetheless. Yeah. I like seeing Cillian Murphy in a lead role.
He's a good actor.
That's really cool.
Good actor.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. I think he should be leads in more things. Like Sunshine. Sunshine was a good movie that he was a lead in.
True.
Well, I think that does it. I think that it's time for us to get off the news, get off trailers, and talk about why we are assembled here today. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Who's ready to talk about it?
Let's do it.
Anyone?
I'm ready to talk about it.
Okay. All right. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Playing exclusively in theaters, written and directed by the new Kevin Feige of DC. James Gunn stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana. This is a big ol' ensemble cast. Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Pom Klementieff, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Will Poulter, Sean Gunn, Chakoti Iwuji, Linda Cardellini, Nathan Fillion, and Sylvester Stallone. In this movie, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill rallies his team to defend the universe and one of their own. So, who's ready to talk about Guardians, and who's ready to begin our coverage of Guardians with a little box office breakdown?
Oh,
womp,
nice.
Womp.
So, it's kind of been an interesting saga for Guardians of the Galaxy, where its first weekend, I think, could have been fairly regarded as somewhat of a disappointment, and its second weekend, which has now come and gone, we're a little bit late to the party in terms of getting this episode recorded and out. I think there's been a little bit of a turnaround in the story where it's had some really, really impressive legs. So, basically, let me get the exact numbers in front of me. Let's see. Here we go. Here are the exact numbers. So its first weekend, it brought in $118 million, which obviously is quite good. It's a little higher than what Ant-Man debuted with earlier this year, but it is a bit down from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And, you know, the usual tendency, especially with MCU films, is your sequels are supposed to do better than their predecessors.
Right.
And that was not the case here. I think Volume 2 debuted with, I think 140, 150-ish kind of range. And that was obviously in 2017. And so, yeah, it's been a little while. And obviously there was a little thing called the pandemic that happened in that time. But we've seen with Spider-Man, No Way Home, and other films, Avatar and stuff, that like box office is in a pretty good place, or at least it has the potential to be in a pretty good place overall. But what happened with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is it had a very soft drop in its second weekend. So it ended up, I think, dropping around 47% in its second weekend, which is like crazy low.
Yeah,
it's incredibly low.
That seems to check out, though. I feel like a lot of people are like just getting to it, or maybe going back.
Well, I think this is something we'll talk about. I think it's a word of mouth thing is a big thing, and I think it's, you know, there's always the conversation of Marvel fatigue, comic book movie fatigue, etc. And I think that when you're coming off the back of something like Ant-Man, which I do think was fine, but had pretty weak legs, kind of dropped like a rock after that really good first weekend, and I think it's because that film wasn't amazing. You know, it wasn't wow-worthy. It wasn't worth going to the theaters for necessarily, whereas something like this, it seems like slowly but surely people are watching it and thinking, okay, I mean, obviously the first two movies are very popular, made a lot of money too. You know, there's the question mark of, well, do I need to see this in theaters? And it seems like slowly but surely people are realizing maybe the answer is, yeah, there is some value to seeing it in the theater. And so the word of mouth is kind of traveling. So its second weekend brought in about $60.5 million, which it's the third best hold in the MCU, I think, behind the likes of the first Black Panther and actually the first Thor, which had a really good hold in its second weekend, but it obviously opened a lot lower. Black Panther is one of those ones closer to Avatar where it just became a cultural phenomenon when it came out and just had like really, really incredible holds, even though it was still making stupid amounts of money in the first place. But it's the best for a sequel in any of the MCU. Beating out even the previous Guardians movies, which dropped like 55% in their weekends, which is a pretty good hold, especially for comic book movies, compared to your Ant-Mans, compared to your Batman v Supermans, which have dropped like close to 70% in their second weekend, like just a huge drop-off, a cliff. So overall, I mean, where does it stand right now? We were, I think roughly almost 2 weeks into its full debut, and it's at $226 million domestically and over $542 million worldwide. And that's another thing. It's playing really well overseas.
Yeah, it's not
got
bad
a Chinese
at all.
release. It's played well in China. It's had good legs in China. And just in general, it's just held really well. And I think that it'll probably leg it out to $900 million. I don't think it'll get quite to $1 billion. But I think that for where it was in terms of, where it started with the opening weekend, it kind of just felt like, okay, is this like, where is this going to end up? Like in 10 days, it outgrossed the entirety of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, to put that into perspective, comparing that to the other MCU movie that we've gotten this year. So I think Marvel has to be happy. It's not breaking a billy like Super Mario Bros. Movie is or anything like that, which is even though now I think it's been released digitally, is still making stupid amounts of money. But I think we can say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, even if it is PG-13, is a little bit more adult,
not
centered,
so much for
oriented,
for sure,
than a Mario movie is. So that's the box office breakdown of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and an impressive take thus far, even if it wasn't actually an impressive debut, exactly. So why don't we talk about this movie? Let's see. You two saw it together, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we did.
First viewings.
Doesn't happen very often, does it?
Yeah, that's true. We timed it opening night on the Friday down in the Wesley Chapel,
And it was a standard movie code viewing kind of thing.
Was the movie code, start like 20.
I really wanted to do 3D, and Andrew was like, please don't do that.
Don't do that to me. No. I only see half the movie, half the frame.
It's going to be blurry as shit or dark because I'm wearing 3D glasses and it looks 2D anyway.
No, it was a solid, large screen format,
Yeah, it's better than Zephyr Hill Cinema.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
So, okay. And then, Andrew, have you seen it a second time, or is that your one and only viewing?
No, my one and only viewing. Yeah.
Okay. I
you guys went and saw it again together, right?
We did,
Indeed. Enrique and I, for his second viewing, my first, by the time I was allowed into a movie theater again post-COVID, we saw it in Dolby in Philly.
Oh, boy.
So that was how we experienced it, which was definitely a good way to see it.
Oh, yeah.
So much so that I saw it a second time last night in Dolby as well. I wanted to kind of relive it before we recorded, and so saw it again. So it was good enough for me to see it a second time. Maybe Enrique feels the same way.
You're helping out the box office.
Maybe that's reflective of his feelings on it. I don't know. Or maybe he's just fucking busy. Who knows? So we've a couple of us have seen it twice, and one of us has seen it once. But with all that said, I don't know who wants to kick this off. What did you guys think about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Guest first.
Okay. Well, I liked it enough to see it twice, but a lot of people, after we watched it together, some of the reactions were, I can't watch that movie again, or I will never watch that movie again.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, wow, was it that bad? It was like that rough? No, it was just that, it's that emotional, that impactful, but it's a journey. So I really enjoyed my time at the movie. I think, if anything, this was reinvigorating. In a way, I mostly enjoyed Quantumania, but it was ultimately, as we discussed, I left kind of disappointed overall, I think, at the prospects, and I just haven't felt a huge jolt. I think even with Wakanda Forever, as good as it was, I think this just made me feel so much and just had such a good ending to the characters that I loved, that I'm still thinking about this movie. And, when I think about all the terrible things, like how awful the Sixers are, things like that, I just think about how good this movie was, and it makes me feel better. So it's that one thing I'm holding on to these days. I'm just like, oh yeah, Marvel really hit this one out of the park. I don't know. Is that just me?
Andrew, what do you think?
No, I thought it was great. It's definitely an emotional roller coaster. Of course, I have an appointment to get my hormones checked because I think they're out of whack. I've been crying over everything lately. I'm just joking. I don't have an appointment to get my hormones checked. It's
enough to make a baby.
Right. I cried several times during this movie. I
would say you have to get your hormones checked if you don't cry during this movie.
That's true. You got something wrong with you.
Yeah, if this movie doesn't make you feel anything, I mean, if nothing else, it should make you feel some sadness and anger, at times.
Get checked out.
If you're not feeling any of those things, then you're just not paying attention, or yes, get checked out. You heard it from the doctor.
Exactly.
That's an official diagnosis right there.
Yeah. I think that as far as comic book movies go, I think Guardians of the Galaxy has always been like, as far as like being able to, as far as team up movies go, and being able to generate enough care and emotion and everything for each of the individual players as much as the team. I think James Gunn really just cranks it out of the park every time. These three Guardian movies, they're I think they're some of the best team up movies I can think of. I can't think of a better entourage kind of film.
And you're talking about
not even
Marvel
comic book movie.
Well, I was going to say, even if you are, you have the Avengers movies, which are obviously a huge fucking deal in terms of the MCU, and yet you might even say Guardians are still better team movies.
I would, honestly. I mean, specifically the second movie I felt like it had a lame kind of villain, but the emotionality between the characters and the team up and everything else was just huge. This movie carries that forward in a big way. And like I said, it really hits it out of the park. I can't think of a better, when you follow so many different characters and so many characters have like the forefront, it makes it, it's got to be a challenge to write. So at the very least, you have to acknowledge the incredible work that James Gunn put in, putting his ideas to the page, because you care about every character, and that starts from film 1 all the way to the third one. So, I haven't seen it a second time. I think it would lend itself well to a bigger format, a premium format, if you will. But what I did see, I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was real good. Oh, another thing that these movies are really popular about is, or a through line through the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise is the soundtrack.
Yes.
And, they did a real good job. I really like this one.
It was a fun, unique opportunity for them to expand the time period in which they could pull songs from. Volume 2 brought in a nice little plot device of the Zune being introduced. It was a fun way for them to kind of reinvent the Guardians dynamic with tunes from all sorts of decades through the 2000s, basically. So, I think even beyond. I think there's a 2010 song in here. If I'm not mistaken.
There was a word I was reading a review
some recent stuff.
of. You guys keep going. I'm going to find this word.
There was a word that encapsulated the movie, or
it's how you feel.
There's
about
a word.
It. Just
there's a
put
word
it on the written page.
There's a word that it's the use of music to carry the emotion of a movie, but also using like the feelings of nostalgia. I can't think of the word. I'll find it.
All right. Well, while you are doing that, let me just chime in, and I mean, I could be here all night, quite literally singing the praises of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I will try not to do that in the interest of some level of brevity. I really, really liked it the first time I saw it. For me, usually when there's something if it's a movie that I like, the first time viewing it is just absorbing it as much as possible, and then the second time you get to see it, you kind of know what's coming, but so you're kind of ready for things, but also it's easier for me to kind of sink into it without worrying about like what's going to happen next. Like, if it's an emotionally compelling story that has like a satisfying ending, like it's nice to kind of build to that and then be able to experience it again without the concern of what's going to happen to this character, what's going to happen to this character, that sort of thing. And so I really enjoyed it both times, but the second time particularly is kind of when I think it really got me emotional, had me in tears at certain points. For sad reasons, for happy reasons, like it was just kind of, it ran the gamut of emotions for me in terms of just the places that the movie went. And so my immediate, like, kind of just quick thoughts are, James Gunn, he's a really unique creative director, writer and director, and I think that he's brought so much joy and awesomeness to the Marvel universe with his vision for the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're not a one-to-one adaptation of the comic books. He definitely plays fast and loose with characters and storylines and stuff here and there. But he's doing it from a place where he's just trying to tell you a good, emotionally rich story, and he totally succeeds. And I think that this one is almost an embarrassment of riches in terms of just the depth of the storytelling and the depth of how much time you get to spend with these characters who, you've spent 2 movies with and have kind of known and loved, or 2+ movies, including the Avengers movies.
And the little holiday special, I guess.
And holiday special, Thor, and stuff. So we've spent a lot of time with these characters, but everyone here has something to do, has some sort of arc that really is really interesting, and it feels like it manages to service every single one of its characters, even if 1 or 2 characters are clearly designated as kind of the leads. Everyone is there for a purpose, and it just really is fulfilling in that way, as kind of what is billed as a conclusion of the trilogy of this current incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. And I think as a potential goodbye to some of these characters, it's really, really satisfying. Bittersweet in some ways, obviously, too, but still very, very satisfying. And so I think this is James Gunn's swan song for the MCU. He's obviously off to doing everything for DC. He's going to be writing and directing a Superman movie, Superman Legacy. And all I can say is, based on this, and I think just kind of the growth that we've seen with him, even making the Guardians movies 1, 2, and 3, DC is in good hands. That Superman movie is in good hands. I don't think that Superman movie should be exactly like this. There's some weirdness and grossness that is in this movie that I don't think would fit in a Superman, but just his general approach to filmmaking is both creative, but I can tell that, like, for him, the richness of a movie comes from making characters, from creating and crafting characters that you can care about and fall in love with. And we've yet to really see that with Superman, at least in decades. So I'm really excited for that. But I think hats off to everyone involved. I mean, production-wise, I think, unlike Ant-Man, the production...
it looks great.
The technical aspects of this are really fantastic. I think the CG hits the mark, which is a rarity for Marvel these days. There's a lot of practical effects.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like they use a lot of sets. Like they constructed a whole ton of sets for this. So I think when you mix the CGI in with real life elements, it just looks better.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Ant-Man felt like a Kenobi in terms of production values, and this feels like an Andor in terms of production values. Ant-Man had that digital volume glossiness to it. This one feels, even though it's absolutely fucking bonkers in all the right ways, still feels real and grounded in a way that the Ant-Man particularly didn't. We're just picking on Ant-Man. It's just the easiest target at this point. I think the cast is brilliant. Even Chris Pratt, who I think is kind of annoying in real life, he's fantastic here. I think the rest of the cast are fantastic. You get some newcomers, which are really good. Will Poulter, we get Adam Warlock. We'll talk about him in spoilers. Chakotay Iwuji, man. High Evolutionary is I think the most compelling villain that we've seen in the Guardians franchise. Without a doubt. Not that it's a high bar, but I do think that he's a real son of a bitch kind of villain, which is appreciated. And I think that I mean, it makes him compelling. So that might be all my quick points.
God
Maybe
damn it,
Andrew
I can't
his
find the
Oh,
word.
he's still going. I was just trying to keep it going. It's
like
I
a real
talk all night. I will.
It's a real esoteric word. I don't know what I saw it one time. I had to look it up because I had no idea what it meant. And I was like, oh, what a good fucking word. I've never heard this word before.
You've been saving
it was so good that I just forgot.
But now it's gone. Yeah, someone's got to write in and say what.
It's like the
overuse
of music to bring about feelings of nostalgia. That is the definition of the word.
Okay. We'll draw.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish this is one of the few times where I feel like I can't read Andrew's mind and just pull it out of the depths of there somewhere.
No, it's a real weird word for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in my vocabularistics. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe not.
Linguistics not too good.
It's a very, very enjoyable. Again, if bittersweet, but and oftentimes just outright like sad. And I saw it a second time. Anna refused to see it a second time, not because she didn't like it. I think she really, really liked it, but because it is kind of tough to watch in parts, and it goes to some dark depths that a lot of MCU movies have not even thought to explore. You know, and it's got that sort of general depravity that I think James Gunn has, while still, but not letting you just wallow in it. Like, it's kind of purposefully built so that even when it brings you down, it gives you an opportunity to bring you back up. You know, and so hell of a film. I think one of the best that we've seen in the MCU in a good while, and I mean, obviously better than Ant-Man, but I think even above Wakanda Forever. Yeah, I think this for me, in terms of just like general like enjoyment level, I think kind of reaches the heights of for more recent movies, a Shang-Chi or a Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it's kind of in that upper echelon of Phase 4, Phase 5 stuff. But I think knocking on the door, if not already at some of the highest of the highs we've seen in the MCU thus far, which I think the Guardians movies have kind of been in that conversation anyway. So it makes sense. And the Awesome Mix is great.
Good. Got to get that vinyl.
I will need to buy it on vinyl. I haven't done so yet, but it's just a matter of time because I have Volume 1 and 2 on vinyl.
I have 1 too.
I want to get one.
Same.
I got to get this one as well. I'll kick it back to you guys if you have any other thoughts, even if you're not searching for words anymore. Maybe he still is. Any other follow-up thoughts on the non-spoiler side? Obviously, it's a 2.5 hour film. We've got plenty to talk about in spoilers too, but anything else you guys want to add, feel free.
But no, I think like my first time and even the second time, there were not many negatives. Maybe like I could probably find a few things to nitpick, but nothing that like truly I was like, I really didn't like that, or like if you had taken this out, this would have been such a better film. I can't think of anything major that really brings it down for me. I think like you said, there's just so many things that work, and you're just with these characters for so many years now. When the first Guardians come out, like 2014, around there, like it's been like 10 years.
And then 2017 for Volume 2.
Yeah.
So it's nearly 10 years since the franchise started.
Wow.
And 6 years since we got the last one. Yeah.
So
I think the only critique that I would have, and it's a matter of, I mean, it's almost a staple in the franchise at this point, is just kind of like it seems like the overuse of slow motion. There's a lot of slow slow motion moments in this, and I mean, I guess it's not really a critique. I could have done without the majority of them, but like at the same time, I feel like it's a staple. For these movies.
It's no Zack Snyder level of
it's
so
not.
There's that.
This is true.
It's not Justice League where it's half the movie that's slow-mo and that's why it's 4 hours long or anything.
Right.
So.
No, but I thought most of the action was actually pretty great.
I thought
it
so
was.
too. I
very
thought
creative.
The way it was shot.
Yeah.
A lot of fluid camera movements, not a lot of cuts and stuff like that. And there's like one big sequence kind of towards the end of the movie, which was really, really fantastic. But I thought in general, it kind of hit the mark on the action front, and it was I think pacing wise was very good. I think you get some really unique set pieces and stuff like that, but it's always moving, and I think the kind of way that the plot is set up gives it a good amount of urgency, which I think was kind of a smart approach. And
absolutely,
it
covers a lot of ground in its
It covers a lot of
frame.
ground. Yes, yes, it covers a lot of ground. Well, we can say that. And I will say one other thought that I think I thought Andrew was going to go to, but I think that this one had one of the best balances in terms of James Gunniness of of like the humor not undercutting.
Undercutting
serious
the sentimental
moments.
moments.
I think he pulled himself back a little bit.
I think
like a little bit, not crazy.
Kind of went too far in a few places. Famously huge turds, taser face. It's like this is like kind of funny the first or second time around, but I don't know. And then there are some really good moments of humor in here in this movie, which I think are really well timed, but they're not you know, they're not there to, you know, like, oh, I can't allow myself to be sad. Like, I have to make everything funny. Like, no. Like, this movie will let you wallow in sadness. And like I said, it will still pick you up, but it's not going to do it with the joke 2 seconds later. And I think that was a really good thing. Like, I think he kind of was able to restrain some of those aspects of his writing where he tends to kind of go too far with jokes here and there.
Yeah.
I thought the humor was very good here.
It felt like, it almost felt like an evolution of James Gunn, right? Like,
yeah, no, I totally agree. I think
we've entered
he's
to the next power level because
yeah, I agree.
He's I mean, obviously he's a good writer and this and that, but I feel like after having three major movies, there's an understanding with each character to where the humor that the character is giving off, it can be a sentimental moment, and you can have a little bit of humor from a character, but it almost feels so very organic to the interaction that character would naturally give. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it felt the characters feel very fleshed out to the point where when there is humor and there is a sad moment or what have you, it feels organic. It feels like, you know, I have a friend that's got this dry sense of humor, and this is what they would do in this situation.
It doesn't feel scripted, and
exactly,
and, like almost like the bantery, like the worst bantery bits of Volume 2 felt scripted. You know, where it's like you have actors trying to deliver punchlines, and it's like, okay, I see what you're going for, but it's not wholly successful. Here, it did really feel natural, and like the types of humor that each character offers is kind of appropriate for what that character might say or do. Like it does feel kind of authentic in that way. Yeah. No.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think
it's good.
This is kind of like like James Gunn kind of letting the moments, you know, letting the emotions like stew in the moment. And I think the exact opposite of what we saw that like a little bit in Guardians 2, what was Thor Love and Thunder, where we're just like we could not like we had to put the joke in. It's like we just gotta
God
pull it back
forbid we
a little
let
bit.
this be serious for 5 seconds, you know?
Right. Like, so I think you can have a mix, like you were saying, of comedy, of drama, of deep emotions, and action. Like you can have it all if you balance it right.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, a lot of people deal with emotional shit with a little bit of comedy. You know what I mean? They throw a joke in there when something happens.
Right.
But the whole situation is undermined by some dude named Taserface. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think, like I said, I was, like you said, Colton, the pacing. There was no situation that we were stuck in for comedic relief that just pandered out a scene. You know what I mean? It all flowed very nicely. I thought the cinematography was real kinetic. I didn't talk about the cinematography, but I thought the cinematography was very kinetic and specifically following what is it, Adam Warlock? There's a lot of really cool shit that happens with Adam Warlock, and I think the cinematography,
he's flying around and stuff. Yeah,
there's like an urgency. There's this like chaos, almost like he's like there's maybe we can talk about it in spoilers, I guess. I don't know, but the Adam Warlock character, while he was he wasn't the deepest character, right? Like he didn't offer
intentionally
a whole lot,
right?
I think that the like what he represented in the movie, I thought he played like his role in the film represented more than what his character was in a way. Like the way they shot him, the chaos that like he was almost like a it's probably, this discussion probably definitely belongs in spoilers. So
we could pick it up. Sure. In fact, I wrote out a few things that stand out to me in terms of spoilers. So, I mean, we'll figure out a kind of way to approach it. I don't know if we want to how we'll do it, but regardless, we'll get.
I'll just shelf my idea right now. Just remind me.
We'll come back to it. No worries. All right. Any other non-spoiler thoughts for anyone? Are we ready to move on to recommendation? How are we feeling?
I think we got a sense of how we're feeling.
I think we probably will know what our recommendation is, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the Ant-Man episode where we decided to revise on the fly our movie ranking scheme to the 3 tiers. So it's go see it in theaters, wait to watch it at home, streaming 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, whatever you do with your life, or wait for someone to pay you to watch it, which is always our classic, like, worst of the worst tier. So I'm getting a sense that this will probably be a consensus go see this in theaters recommendation, but if anyone disagrees, obviously feel free to chime in.
Oh yeah, this should be experience like now. You know, you can wait till Disney Plus, but I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you wait on it.
As someone that did not see it in a premium format, I will elevate the recommendation. If you have the option to see it in normal theater or premium format, go see it in premium format.
Yeah, I agree.
I did not go see it in a premium format, but seeing it in a regular format, I know for sure it would benefit from it. So
it definitely
only
was
seen
a difference
in the premium. Yes, you can speak to the difference. I can say that it's definitely a great Dolby experience. One of the things, and this is something Henrique and I talked about when we walked out, my first viewing, his second, you traditionally see it with the IMAX versions of movies where it has the interchanging aspect ratios for stuff that's kind of shot with IMAX format footage and stuff like that. This is the first time I've ever seen it with Dolby with interchanging aspect ratios, depending on how it was shot. Yeah, so it kind of, and it's similar to kind of what they have on Disney Plus with all the Marvel movies where they have the IMAX enhanced versions where you're basically getting the shifting aspect ratio versions of movies. And I wasn't expecting it out of Dolby, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised. And I think it's smart. And it's like, okay, now you have no more excuses. Like, I know you want to do it in IMAX. Yeah. You know, Christopher Nolan's going to have his bullshit in IMAX where it's going to shift around every 5 seconds. So be it. Or probably not, because it's probably all fucking shot fully in IMAX.
Just everything.
It's just static because it's all just big ass aspect ratio. But anything that's like shot like this where it switches, like, I hope this becomes the norm. You know, like if Avatar: The Way of Water can get away with shifting fucking frame rates within a movie, like, let's normalize like fucking aspect ratios, because if you can fill your screen more, that's not a bad thing. You know, like if you're shooting it in a way that captures more visual information, great. I mean, technically 48 frames versus 24 is more visual information, but just pick one. It's like video games. You don't want it to go 60 to 30 to 60 to 30 all the time. Like, pick one. You get used to one if you watch it. If it goes back and forth, it's really fucking distracting. Looking at you, Jimmy C. But anyway, I did want to add that about Dolby. If anyone has a chance to see it in Dolby, if it's going to hang around in IMAX, I think Fast X is coming out very soon. Might even probably be out by the time this is up on the regular feed, in which case, sorry, you're shit out of luck on probably, but hopefully you've seen it to this point. Hopefully you were able to experience it in premium format. But if not, even if you can't, it's still worth a regular old theater visit, and you have 2 people that can attest to that.
For right sure. So yeah, definitely. Well, I was gonna say, if you're not caught up, because this is what the 78th MCU film to date, or 400th. Okay.
Is it really?
700th, no. 36th.
It's like 30th or something.
I think it's 34, if I'm mistaken.
Right. But there's
your word as the Marvel expert. 78.
There's a lot.
Fuck.
Number 32. This is the 32nd.
32. Okay. There's a lot of Marvel films, and now with the Disney Plus TV shows, I think naturally people will ask, like, do I have to be caught up on stuff? And I think the answer is no. It's like, you should definitely see the first 3 Guardians, like, without a doubt. I think you should see Infinity War and Endgame to know what happens to these characters. And that's probably the only required viewing, honestly. Like, if you can get by without seeing Thor, they just kind of pop in there. You can even get, like, if you don't watch the holiday special, might be a detail here and there you don't get. But I think if you're just like, what do I have to see? It's probably the 2 other Guardians, Infinity War and Endgame, at least like required viewing, I would say.
I would agree. Yeah, 100%.
I did really enjoy how they, total side note, in the weeds, but total side note, I did enjoy how they referenced material and characters and stuff from the Christmas special. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
Cosmo made her appearance in the Christmas special too.
Right, exactly.
I think she made her appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 in the collector's layer.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
A speaking role.
Yes, first speaking role in the holiday special. First actual role that wasn't just a little fun cameo. I would agree. I think you really only need to watch these 4 movies, of which one of them is literally 3 hours long, but still. Volumes 1 and 2, Infinity War and Endgame, I think, are really essential viewing. Obviously, Volumes 1 and 2, for obvious reasons, and Infinity War and Endgame are really the true through line that this movie fully picks up threads from.
Yeah.
And then Holiday Special, I would say, is recommended viewing, but not required. I think it's beneficial. It's very fun. It's breezy. It's got Kevin Bacon. So I think it's worth watching.
When you watch it.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty seamless transition into this movie as well. In terms of setting up, like, why are they where they are, and literally the first scene of the movie, or stuff, and stuff like that. And who is this talking dog? Stuff like that. You get a little bit more of a window into that with a holiday special. So recommended, but not required. And I would say Love and Thunder is, I guess, if you got nothing better to do,
if you want.
Or turn it off after 20 minutes.
That's right. There's no more Guardians.
If you just want the Guardians bit, then you can really just do it that way. But yeah, no, I think that's a few good points to be made for anyone that's not hip on the Guardians, hip on the MCU, as we've now literally covered all 32 movies in the MCU. Which is true. Obviously, some of those we did in a package deal with our MCU Phase 1, 2, 3 episodes. But we've covered 30. Well, I mean, half covered this one, to be fair. But we'll have covered 32 movies in the MCU by the end of this episode, which is pretty crazy. But I think we're ready for full spoilers. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Full spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So how do we want to do this for spoilers here? I'm kind of, I mean, it's a movie that kind of jumps around a little bit, obviously, with some flashbacks and backstory type stuff with Rocket. I don't know if we want to start there. That feels like a depressing way to start. I don't think I'm ready to get there yet. I might need a little bit more alcohol in my system. Why don't we close the loop on what Andrew started talking about before we had to shut it down?
Yeah,
Let's talk about Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock's kind of
the newcomer.
Constant through this movie. He's one of the biggest newcomers, aside from, I guess, High Evolutionary as the villain. But
he's really not. And so that's what I was
Yeah. He's not a true villain.
I think his character is definitely one of the more nuanced things in this movie. I think that you have a villain that creates things and brings, like, consciousness into existence out of things that aren't looking for it, right? They have their existence and they're happy and they're doing, or maybe whatever, right?
They just exist, in their natural
exactly.
state.
They're not, higher evolutions or whatever. And with Adam Warlock, he is brought into existence and he's told what he's going to do and not necessarily why he has to do it, right?
Yeah.
And his whole existence from our perspective, his whole existence is just pure chaos. Here he is, go do this. You have this incredible ability to do things and this power to do stuff. Go do it.
Right, you're basically invincible. You're a Superman-like character. You can fly. You can shoot ray guns out your hands.
Just go do it.
And yes, you're just going to do what you're told. And it's as simple as that. Don't ask questions.
Yeah.
And as his character progresses through this movie, he evolves, and I think it was a kind of poetic character for this movie. You know what I mean? You follow Rocket as he's brought from just a raccoon to higher thinking and this and that.
Don't call him a raccoon, man.
Right? Call him a raccoon.
Or
sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was an interesting think piece about consciousness and like what it is to be, aware. and then it also had like this. I think the word's a juxtaposition against the animals and everything, and maybe not a juxtaposition. Maybe that's the wrong word. But there was this like duality between the animals and the higher evolutionary and Adam Warlock and his role and everything else. It was I thought it was really interesting, at least to think about.
It's almost like a nature versus nurture kind of, thing that you're diving into, where his nature isn't necessarily malicious, and almost the same thing with Rocket, where it's like, he's both of them are just things that have come into this world. Like, it's not until you kind of give them the tools to do anything, and if you want him to be a tool of destruction, he'll be a tool of destruction. He doesn't really know why he's doing it or what it is, but he just wants to please mommy, quite literally.
Yeah.
It's kind of his motivation for most of this movie until, mommy's not with us anymore. And it's kind of just like, well, what am I here for? What am I doing? What is pain? Why does that thing making, looking sad make me sad? What does this, what does this mean? Like, it is kind of an interesting thing to see, where you get like this really, like obviously we see Rocket's backstory play out, sequentially kind of broken up, but Adam is kind of the same way, where you're really just getting Adam's backstory filled in throughout the movie, where it's kind of a full redemption arc within the span of an entire movie.
Yeah.
Where he's just an asshole, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just a child. He's literally a child. He doesn't really look like it. And at the end, he's, a full-fledged
guardian.
The juxtaposition is like the intellect of Rocket Raccoon, but not the physical prowess.
Sure.
Of Adam Warlock. Where Adam Warlock is mentally a child. Can't figure anything out, but
Superman,
a god, as far as exactly, and
and it's interesting too to see Adam Warlock here, because of all these characters, he's probably the most quote unquote like famous. Like if you poll people who read Marvel comics and you're like, hey, do you know any of these characters? Like before the Guardians came out, most people wouldn't. I think have known.
Star-Lord, and they'd say,
right?
Who? Who?
Come on, man. Legendary Outlaw?
Man. That's right. But Adam Warlock's had a pretty storied history in the comic books, but takes 32 movies to make his proper debut in the MCU. Teased previously in Volume 2, but proper debut here.
And it's interesting. I wonder if there was ever a script where he was more tied into the Infinity War Endgame, because clearly he has, normally he has a Infinity Stone in his forehead, kind of like Vision did in the MCU, but they kind of went away from that. But I thought it was an interesting take.
Two dudes running around with
just like two dudes flying around with capes and full color face paint.
Right.
But I thought it was an interesting take on Adam Warlock. I enjoyed it. I really liked Will Poulter, and I thought it was a fun portrayal. I think there's definitely still more there that you can mine. So I'm okay with what we got, and hope that we will get a little bit more too going forward.
I think we almost certainly have to. I think that this to me felt like an introduction, and a deliberate introduction, where you're kind of getting to the point of he's almost like a Scarlet Witch in Age of Ultron, where starts as a villain, kind of works as a villain, and at a certain point realizes, hey, I don't have to be a fuckhead anymore, or I've been manipulated my whole life, my whole 2 days of existence, or however long it's been. Yes, creation of Adam stuff is excellent. We'll get to that.
I lost.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting starting point for this character. And yes, it is a little bit late, later maybe than one might have expected in terms of bringing this character to life. But I thought it was an interesting thing, and just kind of a nice like little side thing, like almost like a side thing that like this movie is kind of the backstory of Adam Warlock and his development into perhaps a full-fledged hero by the end. But he's not really the focus either. There's a lot of other things going on in this movie, and he's kind of on the peripheral compared to a lot of what's going on. But he has nice and neat parallels with Rocket, with the others, and and has his own kind of mini arc, in his screen time. So yeah, I enjoyed Will Poulter. That he was good. It was interesting. It was a fun introduction. I liked Adam Warlock, and I'm hopeful that we'll see more. In the future. So where to next? Any other thoughts? What do you guys want to talk about? What stands out to you from Volume 3?
I thought it was
Firefly.
Interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
Firefly? Oh, is Nathan Fillion?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, God.
Nice. which was his second appearance too, because he was in the first one. But he played
almost his third appearance. Actually.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
He's supposed to be in Volume 2, but I think his somewhat cameo got cut from the final version, which is fine because he was supposed to be playing Wonder Man in a poster, and now Wonder Man is someone that looks very different. We'll get a TV show about before long. So,
but this was like his full on Nathan Fillion.
It's just Nathan Fillion. He looked good. I mean, he's wearing a ridiculous ass suit, obviously, the entire time we see him. I thought he was looking pretty good. That guy's got to be what, 50-ish?
Probably. And his like through bit, his like running joke about like the coworker who just like sucks at their job or just like is annoying and like
I got one of those.
Yeah,
hilarious. Like, in front of the guy. Yeah, I got one of those.
It was like, oh, you know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah. No, you don't. I just made that up. Oh, I thought you were talking about something else. No, you weren't.
See, and that's the kind of thing where it's like it's clearly a James Gunnism kind of humor. It's a taser face kind of situation, but it's actually like funny. And even though it recurs like 2 or 3 times, it's still funny every time. It's like, oh yeah, I got one of those. Like, I don't know, it worked. It was very funny. I enjoyed Nathan Fillion here. That whole set piece though.
Oh, it was great.
It was awesome.
Simultaneously horrifying and amazing. Yes, the orgoscope. Yeah,
really interesting too. Just like organic planet station thing with goop and
I mean, it's just
whatever
nightmare fuel, basically. But it made for a very visually distinct and interesting place where the story goes for a set piece, basically. I enjoyed it. I mean, like there's the eyeball that's like the cameras are literally eyeballs. Like it's just
right, and it's even the buttons are like gooey and just like just kind of gross.
It's just disgusting. And the sound, like anytime someone just like takes a step, it's like and it's just
the noises and the feel. You can like kind of like feel it just to the way like their feet like sink into the ground.
Their stupid suits.
The stupid suits, the flesh suits. Like I will say, I mean, this is probably example number 1. I think example number 2 is like some of the High Evolutionaries creations, but this is the most James Gunn kind of shit in terms of just like he like went full Slither here, in terms of the type of shit that he's doing. And it's got to be pushing the boundaries of like the MCU in some ways.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's some really dark story moments, but just visually, this is like more horror-y, honestly, than anything that we got in Doctor Strange.
Kind of like body horror.
Just visually. You know what I mean?
Especially the face. High Evolutionary's face being like a...
Oh, yeah. Just kind of his skin pulled back. No, it's a very distinct look to this movie, though. All of it.
Yeah, but I liked that in this one you have... like even just when they do like the launch from the Bowie and they have the colored spacesuits dropping down onto it, I think that's when you have Space Hog, I think, playing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
It was good. It was just really, really cool and like iconic, like almost like I could even tell like the colors of that scene really stood out in the trailer, and even more so I think in the final movie itself. It was really cool.
I think the one scene.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the one scene with the spacesuits. Actually, I thought was like a great example of what you were saying of like mixing the serious moment with the comedy.
That was good. That was really good.
Because Peter thinks like, oh, I'm gonna talk to Gamora and convince her.
This is my chance. This is my end.
And he just pours it all out. Like you just see him, and it's like pretty emotional. Like you take that part in itself, and like I really feel for him, where he's like, I'm working with the woman I love, but she's not her. But everything else should be her, and I really want that.
Could you
back.
imagine how terrible that's got to be?
That's what I'm saying. Like I think when you think about it, it's like really heartbreaking.
It's like Alzheimer's
it's why Star-Lord is a drunk idiot in the beginning of the movie, where he's just drooling everywhere, like because that's the kind of thing that would fuck anyone up.
Right. And then they have that very funny sequence of the spacesuit colors, but just like it worked very organically. And it's like you get the emotionality behind it, and then it flips to the comedy, but it still works.
Yes,
I thought red talked to blue.
Blue is for everyone. Yellow is for red. Red is for green. Orange is for yellow.
Yeah. For some reason, the fact that Drax like gets her right just makes it even funnier.
That was another thing. They made Drax like a genius in this movie, which is
but only for certain things.
Awesome.
Right? Like
Yes.
the whole time they talk about how dumb he is.
Of intellect, basically. Just certain things are just like as incredible. Other things, just a big old dummy. But I think there were a couple like really big laugh out loud moments for me, and that was the button thing. That was like the first time like watching it where I just lost it.
Yeah.
And it didn't overplay it. And you're right, it did kind of punctuate a fairly serious moment, but it wasn't so serious that like humor didn't like the humor naturally flowed out of it. Like it would naturally be awkward for everyone to be like, if Drax was listening. We don't actually want to listen to this, but we don't know how to stop it.
Like we thought it would stop on its own. It's like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, there was another moment, I can't remember what it was, but it was kind of the same thing where I was just laughing and like it was just the most ridiculous thing, but just like the perfect like punctuation of humor. If it comes to me, I'll say it out loud, but I don't remember it offhand.
You mentioned Star-Lord in the beginning, right? Like his state of mind. So I thought he had a really interesting journey throughout this movie, and
he did.
Obviously, it's very closely tied with Gamora. But also with Rocket, I just like really love to see the bond that they had, and just how much like each of the characters care. But even I guess you could say it's for every character. Like I think even though this was not Star-Lord's movie, which I think worked really well, he had a great connection with like everyone else, like Nebula. That like she's taking care of him, and like he thinks she's Gamora, and then obviously Gamora trusting Groot to carry his weapons and like work with him and just like become partners to feel like really in sync. And then just the whole time of like, he's all about Rocket. Like he's just like a man on a mission, and he's not going to stop until he can save his friend. And I really enjoyed that. I think, it gives some depth to his character, like even further.
Gives him a singular focus,
Definitely. And what I liked about Star-Lord as well is his relationship with Mantis. They kind of, obviously set up the sibling idea in the holiday special and kind of fully pay it off here a little bit more. I liked that connection. I think ultimately I liked one of the things, and this is something that Anna and I kind of talked about, and it was like, why has even within the Avengers movies, like why has Star-Lord never gone back to Earth? And kind of what has kind of been that obstacle where it's like, he probably has family, and I really liked that they paid it off in such a big way here, and we'll get to it a little bit more later, I guess, if we want to save kind of full ending stuff for how all the characters kind of resolve. But I liked that was kind of a lingering thread of like, hey, it's okay to like care about people and care about your friends and care about your family, and like, I don't know, his whole life has been running away. He found this new family in the Guardians, but it doesn't mean that he has to turn his back on, maybe any family that he might have had back home. I thought that was a really sweet.
It's huge.
Kind of moment.
It's huge.
And big for him is like a personal growth kind of moment.
And I think that's probably why it just shows a lot of. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I think it's incredible to have that much realization in a character, right? Like you have this guy that is the comedic relief for 3 movies, but he's also like one of the most pained characters. Like like if you look through the MCU, he lost his mom and then he was kidnapped, and then he was
he's known nothing but loss. I mean, that was a big point of this movie was like everyone I know and love dies.
Yeah, and I think that was some of the hesitation of even going back to Earth is like, I don't want them involved, or like,
he's lost a mom, 2 dads,
a lover,
significant other,
right, and then thinking he's going to lose his best friend.
He shrugs it off. He shrugs it off with comedic relief all the time. You know what I mean? Until he can't. And then he has a singular focus. He puts his nose to the grindstone. I'm not gonna lose another one.
Right.
And that's the journey. And then he goes back home. And it was really funny to kind of see him get wrapped up in like all the tea that's going on
afterwards
in the post credits.
Yeah. 45-year-old man watching me mow the lawn.
It's real funny, but. Yeah, man. These movies are huge for the MCU. And I don't know. I think we have less of an MCU without these 3 movies.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
I agree.
It's like its own corner, but also connected, with all the other movies. I did like that this movie didn't try to set too many things up. It felt very focused on, like, this is a story I want to... It seems like they gave James Gunn a lot of reign for this movie, I would guess. They're like, oh, by the way, you have to set up the Nova series and this series and a Rocket and Groot series and this and that. I don't know. Maybe, we know Nova and some other things are coming down the line, but it wasn't focused on setting up new things. It was really focused on, like, telling the story of these characters. And I think if you can weave in, like, continuing stories, that's great. But I think most importantly, you have to tell, like, your main story. And I feel like they really did that.
I think that's what was so awesome about, like, I don't think that you could have, like, I don't think Thanos could have been integrated. I mean, I guess you have Thor, right? But aside from Thor, Guardians brings Thanos into the fold. You know what I mean? I feel like just that corner of the MCU is only realized through Thor and Guardians.
Yeah.
And yeah, so without this and the emotionality and everything else, I think it's huge. Huge stuff. Real good stuff. And I think that DC picking up James Gunn to kind of be their person to build everything off of seems like a very just an insightful pick,
Yes, very astute of them to I mean, hey, Marvel fired him. There's they did what they did, and they gotta deal with the consequences. I think they're lucky to have gotten James Gunn to have given it all into making, I think, this a last hurrah for his involvement in the MCU and one last stab at giving these characters emotional and fulfilling payoffs, and to some extent setting up some new threads, not a ton. Volume 2 had fucking 5 post-credit or mid-credit sequences. This has the more standard 2, and they're kind of just promising more without being, like, obvious, like, Guardians Volume 4, can't wait, 2 years, 3 years, it's like, no, like, this is, we're giving each character a payoff. And maybe this is it for them, maybe it isn't. But yeah, no, I DC's got a good one, and James Gunn, I'm excited for DC to step their fucking game up, and I do think that they are going to,
I hope so.
With him, kind of leading the charge. And I don't know if everything's going to be as good as this. I don't expect that. That would be a high bar to meet, but I think they're gonna do better. Yeah.
I watched an interview with James Gunn in regards to this movie, and he was talking about how Marvel never told him no. Like, since he's been making these movies, Marvel's never told him. He's never had to ask for permission or pull anything out or cut anything out. And they even let him drop the F-bomb.
That's true. The first MCU proper F-bomb. I feel like we've gotten some cut off F-bombs here and there, or something happens to kind of censor it.
Captain America.
We got a full on. Yeah. No, we got it full on here, and
it came from James Gunn. Of course.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, you're right. Not surprising. But I thought it was perfectly placed.
It was hilarious.
It was. Maybe that was the moment where I just lost it. I think it might have been.
Yeah.
I think that was the second moment where I just lost it.
Everyone had a reaction in our theater. It was like, oh, whoa, wow. It was like laughter, but also just like shock. It's like, ooh.
Push the button. Open the fucking door. It's just such a, it's a perfect delivery of that line. There's a way to deliver that line that wouldn't be as funny, but it's just such a matter of fact and relatable kind of thing. It's just like, just do the fucking thing. God damn it. Like, I don't know. It was perfect. We're
trying
awesome.
To save the planet.
Unexpected, but perfect.
It was great.
Oh man. I think that was it. I think that was the second moment. It was just open the fucking door.
I think I laughed at that moment. I think I laughed and I said, "Wow."
I hope those kids cover their ears, because that's not appropriate.
I think the third moment for me was definitely the creation of Adam.
Oh yeah, that was good.
and it was like, oh God, I'm crying because I think he's dead. Like,
right.
This is like I know that this is the last
This is a movie
Guardians.
of a lot of death flags going up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think he's dead. And then he comes in and touches his, like, what the? Like I have tears coming down my cheek, and then he comes in. Yeah, it was
the pose and everything. Yeah, but
yeah. No, that was very funny. But I will say, I mean, I think maybe that's the thing is, I do think a lot of the conversation going into this movie was who's going to die. And Rocket had obvious death flags on him. I think from the trailers, you're getting a Rocket backstory. It feels like, all right, well, if you're going to kill him off, do it in the one where you get his backstory, so you get his kind of full story played out. I think some of the actors have been pretty on the record of basically being like, oh, I'm not doing any more after this. Like, I'm not doing any without James Gunn, or my time in the MCU is done. It's like, okay, well, is it done because you don't want a paycheck? Is it done because your character is dead and you're happy with how things ended? And so I was like, Drax, could be a goner.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think Rocket and Drax, where I was like, it's one of those two walking in. That's how I felt about it. But I did have the moment where I was just like, oh shit, are they doing Star-Lord at the end? Like that would be that would be unexpected. Like I think when Tony Stark died, it was like, oh wow, they went for it. But also you're 20 movies in at that point, and so it's not a crazy thing. You've had 3 Iron Mans to that point, multiple Avengers movies, etc. And it's like, okay, I can see why RDJ, who gets paid $500 billion a movie, would decide to be done with things. And Chris Pratt, I'm sure, makes a good amount of dough himself, but it still would have kind of felt like, oh, that's surprising. But I think I was actually the most surprised that not a goddamn Guardian died. I think that was incredibly surprising to me.
It was incredibly surprising.
That they just didn't go for the someone died. I mean, okay, Rocket died for like 2 seconds or whatever, if you want to be technical about things, but no, I mean, it was even though no one died, it still had that kind of ending where it's just like, well, this is still bittersweet, I think Volume 2 had like the sadder ending, Yondu dying and the Ravager funeral. Like that's kind of just like, oh man,
brutal.
Like
that hits.
Oh man.
And this one ends on a much more uplifting note, for sure. So yeah, I was surprised most by that. That the Guardians of the Galaxy as a team did not make it out of the movie. Sort of.
True.
I mean, this iteration of the team did not make it out of the movie, but all these characters individually did, and they have places that they'll go. I was happy about that as well.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that, but I was very concerned for most of the movie with Rocket, because obviously,
yes,
right from the get go,
because he's in mortal peril like 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's in a coma for half the movie, and it's interesting that it's Rocket's movie and he's not in the present day timeline. Like he's not doing anything in the present day timeline for most, at least like half the movie. So you can get it all through his backstory.
I will say, the first time I watched it, I felt that absence. Even though you're getting so much Rocket and richness through the backstory,
but it's separate.
I really missed his dynamic and his personality in that first part. But I think especially the second time through, it makes the payoff so much more worth it. When he does come back, it's that much more emotional, and it just feels like, oh, this part of the team that was missing is now back, and you feel it immediately in just terms of how he is and how obviously all the characters respond to him coming back.
Right.
And he comes back with enough time to not just be there for 5 minutes at the end. Like, he's fully involved and kind of around, but yeah, that first like half or whatever where he's in the coma, like there's just, I don't know. You felt his absence.
It made me a little nervous. He has lines in the trailers. So you're like, okay, obviously he's coming back, but I don't know that they
flight away together into the forever.
I think I watched a few.
He's dead.
I watched a few
this
trailers
little
back.
Raccoon is dead.
Right. But you're like, oh, they didn't use every single thing, or they changed up some of the lines. So I was like, what if all of those lines in the trailer are not in the movie and Rocket is just dies? So I was pretty concerned, but I was really glad to see him come back and see his backstory. But I think it makes the MacGuffin hunt more interesting too, when it's like, oh, we're hunting this because it destroys the galaxy and things like that. Like that makes for a fun adventure, but it's also like, we need to go get this thing because it's the only thing that can save Rocket, and like this is the only thing that's going to save my friend.
It's not universe breaking stuff that they're getting. It's just, I need to save my best friend.
Yeah,
like
second
that's
best.
there's more urgency to that than it's like, we're the Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, this thing's gonna blow up the universe. Not a big deal. We've saved the galaxy a couple times, but no, like when one of your own is put in jeopardy, like it's just shit gets real quick.
Right.
Which was interesting. I did like these. Maybe this is the time to do it. Maybe this is the time to get into the backstory. I think maybe we've been here long enough that we can do it now. I enjoyed the storytelling device that they used of cutting back, with Rocket in the coma, to flesh out who Rocket is, how Rocket became who he is, and the heartbreak that he endured, and making his escape from that motherfucker, the High Evolutionary, real son of a bitch, that guy. Man, this, I think without a doubt, I think this is the part of the movie that makes people not want to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
It's you have animal abuse, you have just really cruel, like just cruelty. And I think
it's pretty fucking twisted. It's
I will say, I think filmed in as tasteful a way as it could be done.
It could have been done so much worse.
It could have been really manipulative, like emotionally manipulative and kind of fucked up, and like, look at how grody this shit is. Like, no, I think it's done pretty respectfully for like what it is, but what it is just hard to watch. It's just hard. Just a really, I think even from the get-go, like Rocket's first words, when he, speaks is hurts. Like, and it's just like, oh man.
Dude. Yeah, I think even the second time watching it, knowing what was coming to, just starting off from there, I was just like, because he makes friends.
You guys just talking about it. Fuck.
He makes friends with Lila, Teets, and Floor, and it's just beautiful friends. What they go through, and to take that away from each other, that was painful. Wow.
Yeah. Oh. I liked the four of them. I thought they were, it was fun. Like, obviously this kind of bonding and times of crisis kind of thing was really sweet. And like he and Lila have a nice connection, and he's Sally's with Floor. And like, I don't know, like they're all just kind of so sweet and innocent creatures who now have this level of sentience and think that there's, the grass is greener on the other side. We're going to see sky and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, you're right. The second time through is like when you know how it ends, it's just that much more brutal to see it. But I think, like, for me, the most like hair-raising, chill-inducing moment, and the part where I just kind of lost it, especially the second time, is when the High Evolutionary shoots Lila and Rocket just fucking loses it.
Right.
And he's just screaming and crying and just such devastation, such loss. Like, hey man, if I have to pull back to not make myself feel emotional, what I'll say right now is Bradley Cooper sold the fucking goddamn shit out of that moment. Like, that was incredible acting. Incredible acting.
For a raccoon, man.
Yeah, and like just that sense of loss. And then even like when Floor and Teefs go down, like he's just almost I think he's dissociating pretty much at that point. It's just
it's the only people he's ever known.
Right. Yeah. His only friends.
And even High Evolutionary, it almost felt like there was obviously we know who the High Evolutionary is, but in those initial kind of meetings, it's kind of a level of intrigue between the two of them where, like, it's like, oh, you're my creation. And he kind of looks up to him a little bit, and then he kind of gets the rug pulled out from under him because, like, look at this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. It's all fucked up. And then, he fixes the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. And the High Evolutionary is just fucking so blown away that this little raccoon motherfucker could come up with something that he couldn't. That's what breaks this motherfucker's mind. It breaks him, to his core, that he cannot fathom that he would have created something that would outdo him in this this small sliver. Those are his friends.
And it's been like, he hasn't talked about his backstory.
Right, no one knows who they are.
He hides it. Yeah. Well, and they kind of see, I guess, once they get like the access, and even Nebula's like, this is worse than anything Thanos did to me. And all we know about her is her losing to Gamora and Thanos continually like restructuring her so she could be this invincible killing machine. And even throughout this movie, she gets fucking wrecked. Like her neck gets snapped backwards and she's still fight. Like she's basically someone that can get killed and just reconstruct herself however many times as possible. So we know she lost a few fights, and Thanos did some replacements, including her beautiful black eyes as well. Lest we forget.
Oh man, yeah, but that's like there's no way to come out of that scene and not just like feel so much for Rocket and kind of like understand who he is, and you see the violence side of him come out too, and you kind of understand where some of that comes from, and then he just has to escape and then go start a new life.
It's like Star-Lord. He's experienced so much loss.
He just runs away.
Most people's reactions is, if you let yourself feel, then you will never get out of that. Mm-hmm. So you shut down. You shut down, and you just keep on moving. You don't think about it too much. You just let it kind of fall by the wayside, and keep everyone at arm's length, and you'll survive. Like, it's almost like a survival instinct for the both of them. And it's like, it's okay to feel it sometimes, but it takes a lot of legwork to get to that point, to feel comfortable, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And we've seen, it's really 3 movies of building to that point for both Rocket and Star-Lord, of just letting your guard down a little bit, to be like, it's okay to be emotional and vulnerable with the people that you love, that love you. It's heartbreaking stuff, but it's really, really, it's real really, really emotional. Dude. It's really emotionally fulfilling and satisfying too. At the same time, just to see the journey that these characters, that Rocket and Star-Lord particularly, go on to get to this point by the end, but just really, 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 really well done.
And then all the Guardians do everything. They get the MacGuffin. They break that guy's face. Like they do their mission, and then they get it to Rocket, and it's too late, and he's essentially dead. Yeah. And that was devastating in its own way, because you just see then Star-Lord's reaction to Rocket being gone, kind of the rest of the Guardians, and then the reunion with Lila, with Tease, and with Floor, and it's like Rocket's ready to go, but they're not ready for him, and that was tough. It was great to see him come back, but that was hard.
Yeah,
too much. That's fuck.
But he gets to come back, and at the end of the day, he gets to be captain now, which is pretty fucking awesome for Rocket. Right. To start where he did. Just an experiment to be thrown away to, captain of the freaking Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. And taking down his maker
hell of a
too.
glow up.
The person who created him going back and confronting them and winning.
No. Well, I will say, let's talk about the High Evolutionary maybe. Yeah. If you guys are up for it. Real douchebag, motherfucker. I'll say that.
Purple
RoboCop
nurple
looking, purple nurple looking bitch or whatever, that sort of thing too. A real hateable piece of shit.
Yeah,
just an absolute depraved monster, comfortable with committing genocide of an entire planet that he built because there's some drug dealing going on and whatnot. Just an unhinged lunatic.
Really good fucking villain though, right?
Good villain. That makes him a really compelling villain because he's a real hateable piece of shit. He's not a killmonger where his motivations are understandable. No, he's just a motherfucker.
Right.
But I think that his goal is actually I think he's like Thanos in the sense that like his goal is interesting. I think Thanos is still more sympathetic in the sense that it's like, my motivations are vaguely altruistic, not really, still kind of genocidal in the way that I accomplish things. Whereas High Evolutionary is, I think the way the Rocket puts it is, you didn't want to make things better. You just hate things the way they are. Like, he's like, he just thinks that he's almost similar to Ego in that, like, I think I'm better than everything. I need to craft everything with my perfect, unique vision because I'm perfect and everything should be like me. And if anything's inferior, like, you're a little raccoon. How could you have thoughts that are more advanced than mine. You're just a lowly life form that I made. You know, like that's the kind of thing.
Fuck you, rip your face right off.
Yeah, fuck you. I'm gonna claw your whole fucking face off. Turn you into. I mean, that was gnarly shit there too.
It was gnarly shit.
That was graphic.
Again, I'm surprised at the stuff they got away with in this. I really feel like they're pushing the boundaries of not only Marvel goodness but PG-13 shit too. I think to some extent. It was brutal, but I liked that he was a compelling villain. I also liked that when he confronted Rocket at the end, Rocket got a good lick in. And then the team realized Rocket was still on the ship. They all went back for Rocket, and they kicked the living shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Like, everyone just beat the fuck out of this guy, and then he gets stabbed, and it's just like, good. Fuck this guy. Let him blow up with this ship. It was one of the most satisfying like villain deaths there is. And I feel like the problem is, I've always thought like Marvel villains, like, oh, they always kill them in the first movie they appear in. No, they could be recurring threats. And it's like, this guy I never want to see again. I'm glad he's probably dead. Like, fuck this guy. Never again. Don't want anything to do with him.
He was played so well, though. Just like so over the top.
Yeah, played really well.
But he just really believed it.
But yeah, like in a really menacing way. Like he was a good villain. Very good villain.
My favorite line was when everyone's starting to doubt him. They're just like, you're just on this personal vendetta, like you're gonna get us all killed. And he's like, someone says like, for God's sake, and he's like, he just yells back like, there is no God. That's why I stepped in. And like that's why
I stepped in.
And you're just like, whoa. That's like one of the all-time classic villain lines. Like, whoa, incredible stuff.
Yeah. No, he had a couple like kind of one-liners. That was one of them. I think there's another one that kind of stood out to me where it's just
yeah.
I
think one of the cruelest ones was when Rocket thinks he's gonna go to the Counter Earth, and he's like, "You're not going there." It's like, you're just some broken thing that I created that just happened to be kind of smart. It's like, but he's like, you were able to fix like the problem, but you weren't able to solve like to know that you weren't coming along with us. And that was so hurtful.
Yeah.
Just rude. Just so rude.
Real shitty dude, man.
Shitty dude. Definitely got his due at the end, and it was satisfying. Without a doubt. Yeah.
Who else?
Yeah.
Who else you got?
Gamora. I guess we can talk a little bit about Gamora if you guys want. Definitely a different flavor of Gamora.
Kind of came back a total dick.
Yeah, she did come back. I don't know if anyone's 100% a dick, but well, by the end she's not. But she started kind of pretty close to it. She called him Quinn. No, it was good, and I liked. I mean, I think Gamora individually, it was fun to see this version of the character where I think she's almost closer to like the deadliest woman in the galaxy or whatever, which I think is kind of more her comic book thing. Whereas I feel like the Guardians version that we've seen to this point has always been like threatening and very powerful, but never quite like a woman that could kill anyone in the universe kind of level of power threat. And this Gamora felt a little closer to that. Obviously found a kind of different family, not the Guardians, but the Ravagers, which was interesting. We get more Sylvester Stallone talking absolute nonsense, and it's abundantly clear the man has no idea what the words he's saying are, but he's just reading the lines, so good for him. I liked it, but I think most of all that they gave us some really good Gamora and Quinn moments, but that they didn't that was intentional. But they didn't put them back together. They didn't like staple it back together like, she's like different, but like they still live each other.
They still fall in love.
It's like, no, this is just, she's a fucking different person. This is someone plucked at a time in 2014 and like she's still obviously against Thanos, but it doesn't mean that she's just going to automatically fall head over heels for Peter Quill again. Right. And I think that, especially this version of Peter Quill, who's kind of he's a little bit of a sad sack, a little overbearing. But no, I thought it was a kind of nice thing where like by the end they kind of recognize like, yeah, I could see how it works, but no, sorry. That was someone else still. That was a good resolution to that. I liked it, and I liked I just liked her inclusion here. I think it was a good way of handling this kind of, Elseworlds kind of Gamora almost. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It was cool.
I think if you bring a character back, right, like it's got to be for a reason, and it's not like you can't just be like, oh, no one dies. Like it's just the same exact person, but it was interesting that it wasn't.
And it wasn't just a cheap reset. No,
exactly.
It fully paid off in terms of
it had consequences
and informing everyone's characters in this movie. Yeah, without a doubt.
Like Peter's grief stayed there, and I think in a ways it was kind of beautiful that what he and his Gamora had was something special that doesn't just naturally just happen just because of who they are. It was truly something that was between them. So it was, I think hard to see and to see what he's going through, but in the end it was great where I think they left the two characters.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
I mean,
you are Groot.
I guess you are Groot. I love you guys.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that, I was just like, "What?
What?"
That really threw me for a loop.
Have we all seen? I mean, I guess everyone can interpret it differently, but James Gunn's interpretation is that we've spent enough time with Groot that we can understand Groot now, at least in that one moment. So he's not just,
no way, is that the thing?
He's not magically learned how to speak.
Yeah, he's not speaking.
It's that we actually just know what he's saying. Because it's always been a thing, I think, where at least Vin gets a version of the script where in place of I am Groot, it actually says what he's saying, so that, the way that he says I am Groot has the right level of inflection and actually is somewhat intended to be somewhat reflective of what he's actually saying in a moment, and so this is is the only time, I guess, quite literally, where we kind of get to see or see and hear what he's actually saying.
That's so awesome.
But
damn it, that's so cool.
It kind of parallels because Gamora, Gamora
right? She
2.0,
finally understands.
She's like, I know what your fucking name is. Stop saying it to me. But by the end, she speaks Groot. She's spent enough time with Groot that she picks up on what he's saying, and she almost doesn't realize it either until she's just like, well, I'm just responding to you. Oh, I guess I know what you're saying now. Which was fun. It was good. It was good.
I heard that Vin Diesel wanted it to say, "You are my familia," but they had to change. They had to change that line.
Mi familia.
Like, I love mi familia.
He says, I don't got Guardians of the Galaxy. I got family.
Oh, it would have been good.
Might have been a little on the nose, maybe, but it would have been good.
You would have laughed your ass off, though.
I would have lost. That might have been the funniest thing in the movie. Oh man, that would have been good. All right, I think we're nearing the end here. What other little things can we hit on? Counter Earth was a thing.
Yeah.
Got some fucking Faith No More blasting. Maybe that's. What was everyone's kind of favorite Awesome Mix Volume 3 inclusion? Was it because of the song itself? Was it because of the scene that it played in?
Yeah.
Like, what stood out to you, like moments in the movie, maybe?
I think some of the ones that stand out for sure are just the beginning with the acoustic Creep and Rocket singing along.
Great. Yeah.
And you're just like, it sets the vibe.
Start it. Totally. From the get-go, you get the vibe of this movie. And then, I mean, I guess to answer my own question, that juxtaposed with the ending of Florence and the Machine.
Oh, yeah.
The Dog Days Are Over.
Oh,
just
man.
such a dramatic 2.5 hour turnaround of Creep to Dog Days Are Over. Just that journey that you just went on.
Shows the
that kind of
evolution.
encapsulates it. Yeah. Drax dancing. Oh, man.
Yeah, Drax finally dancing.
And like the shit of like, you weren't born to be a destroyer. You were born to be
I was going to
bad.
say, we didn't fully talk about Drax enough.
We didn't talk about Drax. And you know who else we haven't talked about enough? Nebula, man. Nebula is
great.
fucking awesome.
Nebula's great. Karen
She's
Gillan,
gone from... Yeah, oh yeah. What a
she just like... Yeah, like just complete like physical transformation, but also just like everything. Like, I don't know. Like it's
that's
unrecognizable.
Colin Farrell Penguin-esque bullshit is what she's doing. And I don't think we've appreciated it in the same way that we appreciated Colin Farrell as the Penguin. She's awesome, and I think that she's such an interesting character in terms of her full arc throughout the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the most well-developed and best arcs in the MCU where, this is a character who, like Rocket, has been through the fucking ringer and has somehow managed to come out of it. And now she's not a lackey to Thanos. She's not a daughter of Thanos. She's not a villain or an anti-hero. She's a guardian of the fucking galaxy, and she's a fucking hero.
Yeah, she's just Gamora,
Yeah,
she kind of took over. She kind of took over some of that role. Yeah.
She is kind of, I guess kind of what Gamora sort of became, but it's really interesting to see Nebula in this way. And I just think, the way that a lot of these characters end, Nebula's like, I just want to enjoy a life and live in a place that I never got to know. Like, it's just like, good for you. Yeah. You should do that, like,
and like care for children, life. Unlike she was cared for too.
Yeah, no, totally.
Right. Like give them a future she never, or a childhood, however she phrased it, that she never had.
Yeah. Anyway, I got sidetracked. I don't know if anyone else any other awesome mix moments that they want to shout out.
Yeah, we care a lot, man. That was
care a lot. Boom,
well, because it comes in and you see their suits.
Yeah, that's true. We got the full
suits,
fucking
man.
Guardian suits there. Yeah, that's where it was. You're right.
Yeah, ever since the trailer,
very pumped up about that.
Those suits look so good. Like, one of my favorite costumes in MCU, probably.
I like how in all the songs, like every sequence that had a song felt like a music video in a way, which is probably why there's so much slow-mo. But I don't know, it felt cool.
Well, and I think that's always been the fun thing about these Guardians movies, and it's why it sets it apart from Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad, from Suicide Squad. It's not just popular music stapled on top of something else. It is very deliberately chosen to be integrated into the scene. Like, obviously, literally in some ways where it's just like, I'm pressing play on the Zune or hitting the wrong button and then music starts. Like, it's built into the film naturally that way.
Yeah.
But, like, they all kind of connote, like, a feeling or, like, feelings, that are supposed to accompany the visuals of what you're seeing. So, yeah, we talked about, like, the Space Hog in the meantime stuff when they're jumping
that was a great one.
To the Orgoscope. And, like, just... I don't know. It's just cool, man. How
cool.
well they all
cool.
they all just fit so naturally. I mean, I think one obviously, which we sort of talked about as well, is the No Sleep Till Brooklyn sequence. Was awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
Oh, the hallway
fucking
scene.
Ass in the hallway. You get a classic Marvel hallway sequence, and it's not a oneer or anything like that.
But it's like kind of shot in that way, or like made to look like that.
Every character gets like a chance to be a fucking badass, and it just kind of jumps between them. It was sick. It was fucking cool.
Yeah,
it was really
that
cool.
was awesome.
Yeah,
no, great mix.
Good mix, really good mix. Yeah, very eclectic in some ways, but not in a bad way. Yeah, in a good. It's a mix. It's supposed to be a mix.
Yeah.
We've not fully gotten out of the 60s 70s of volumes 1 and 2,
there was some,
but mostly out of it, I think. Yeah, that was good. It was very good.
Great stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess really, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's really just kind of the end. We've hit on obviously some of the resolution of some of these characters already, but maybe not everyone. I mean, Mantis goes off. She tames the obelisks and is kind of going off to, I guess, kind of find herself because she's never had an opportunity to just find out who she is. Left to her own devices, which is an interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, and Mantis is great too, just between like seeing how she fights by like using her empathic skills to like her relationship with Drax and kind of like opposing Nebula too, just being like the positivity of the team. Really enjoyed her, and she was just like had great comedic timing. Yes, no, she was really good. I just think that like Mantis is one of those characters that's always been kind of just there. Even in Volume 2, she was fun and like a cool introduction to her, but wasn't given a lot. The movie was really about obviously Peter and Ego and Gamora and whatever, and Mantis was just kind of just part of the ensemble. And here I think that even though this is still very much an ensemble piece, she herself has a lot to do. She has a lot to contribute. She comes away, realizing, again, this thing of like, well, I have to do my own thing too, and that's okay. I thought that was good. Just the endings for everyone just felt right. She goes off Drax and Nebula stay to care for the children. Drax being like a new dad. And we said Peter goes to Earth. So Gamora goes back to the Ravagers. And then the new Guardians, I guess, Yeah,
I guess that feeds into kind of our mid-credit sequence, which is, this Guardians of the Galaxy team that we have known and love is now kind of gone, at least for now. But the Guardians of the Galaxy are still a thing with Rocket in charge, leading things with Groot, big ass motherfucking Groot.
Yeah, King Groot.
King Groot, yeah.
And
who else? Kraglin.
Kraglin with his arrow.
He's always there.
Cosmo.
There. Cosmo's there. Adam Warlock is now a full-fledged Guardian. And we sort of talked about that.
Oh, and what's because I don't think they said it in the movie.
Phyla-Vell.
Yeah. She's supposed to be Phyla-Vell.
Which is interesting. Kind of a introduction. Like we don't really know anything about. She's just a fucking kid who's on this team now.
One of those
she's got
kids,
like the one eye that kind of like glows.
She's supposed to be who?
Phyla-Vell.
The character is Phyla-Vell in the comics.
She is part of a lot of the Guardians runs, like that kind of 2000s or whatever Abbott and Lanning one. That this movie. Though I guess the three Guardians take a lot of inspiration, but not like directly.
Yes, right. But like the team itself is mostly lifted from that run. It's kind of interesting. Like we don't really know anything about this character other than like, hey, this is another comic book character, and I don't know. Next time we see her, is she going to be aged up? Is she just a kid now? Who's to say? I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, we don't know how they age. I guess because they're just creations that live on 30 calories a day or
just jube it about. That's all.
They only know 3 words, and 2 of them are jupe.
You're not supposed to be a destroyer, Drax. You're supposed to be a dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
I bet that hit you in the feels real good.
It hit me good. It hit me good. Square in the feels. What a line.
No, it was good. It was really good. And I think we get a promise of Star-Lord's return, but obviously he does kind of have that moment to reunite with his grandpa, who they named Jason, which I kind of appreciated. They're like, all right, I don't know if his grandpa is canonically Jason as well, but obviously his comic book dad is Jason. So I feel like that's kind of James Gunn being like, because I was like, why did he change Peter's dad? And he's like, it's because I don't like Jason. I don't like him as a character, and I just wanted to change it. And I feel like this was him, like at least being like, all right, he still indirectly came from Jason as well, which was fun, but it was good. No, I like that. I think it was just good moment of Peter having an opportunity to go back, home, and reunite with family and experience that, and and the title card of him returning. It's like, Star-Lord is still going to Star-Lord. He's not. To me, it didn't strike me as a retirement thing so much as, hey, we had this near-death experience with Rocket. It's time for me to do some things for myself at this point, and I'll guard the galaxy some other time.
I heard some theories too that this is the Star-Lord will return isn't necessarily talking about Peter Quill. It's talking about like another, the next Star-Lord, which would be interesting. I feel like they haven't really done that. Like I feel like they usually say like so-and-so will return if they're talking about that character, but who knows what the
I feel like it says the
multiversal saga
Star-Lord, and like who else could that be? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's like how they do, it's Spider-Man and then like the Amazing Spider-Man and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and who knows?
No, I think Chris Pratt's going to take his $20 million paycheck and be happy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
If not, I'm here to be the legendary Star-Lord. I will be.
Fuck it, cast me. I'll take $10 million.
Yeah.
Take 10. That'll be fine. Yeah. No. I'm excited to see where some of these characters go. Obviously, Adam Warlock, I think, is a big one. Like, what are they doing with that fucking Phyla-Vell kid? Like, okay, like that's kind of weird, but cool. I want to see more of Rocket and Groot, and Cosmo. I loved Cosmo. I'm glad Cosmo got a bigger role in this movie. I thought she was awesome. I'm okay.
I was just gonna say,
I'll just say I'm okay to step away with some of these characters, but I don't want to step away from the side of the universe and some of these characters. So I'm excited to see more, even if it's not for a few years, whatever they end up doing.
Right.
Still want more of it.
It leaves the door open, you know.
Yes. Anyway, sorry.
But no. I was just gonna say I was very concerned about were they about to like fight and slaughter all of those like animals coming to the town, or were they just gonna like kind of like round them up and put them away?
Yeah, they'll send them to a zoo or release them in the wild.
I was like,
maybe
because it just seemed like after saving all the animals from the High Evolutionary. To then go and just like just slaughtering all.
Like she's getting scratched to death by a monkey or whatever.
Yeah, they're just. Oh, that was pretty brutal. But it's like, okay, Kraglin, maybe don't use your arrow to kill all of them, and Groot can just round them all up and put them somewhere. That seems like a better strategy.
I think they'll be fine. I think if any harm became to those animals, that Rocket would single-handedly kill who was responsible.
Right.
So,
okay.
He's very protective now, I think. And I did have I had the thought. I think I might have told you this in person, but it was like, was he just going to save all the raccoons, or like,
like just the raccoons,
going to leave all the other animals? Like, fuck them, like, raccoons. But he took them all, and I felt good about it by the end. And he took on the name Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, that's true. He owned it.
Completion of a journey.
Like, it's not a weakness. This is who I am.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Any other spoilerific thoughts for anyone on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Have we exhausted it?
That's it.
All right. I'm going to ask one final question. Where do you place it, ranking the Guardians of the Galaxy movies? We're done ranking the MCU. We're 32 movies in. We'd be here for 2 hours trying to do that. How does it stack up to the other Guardians movies for you guys?
I think I do have a running list on my letterbox, which I'm not sure that I'm not sure I updated
every time
and I can just switch it. I think I need to sit with it more, but if I'm gonna do it today, for me it's 1, 3, 2 is my.
I'd agree with that
ranking
so far. Yeah, I think so.
I really enjoyed all three of them. The first one was just so new and just encapsulates things so well, but this one's a great.
The third one, in comparison to the second one, is just much more consistent and tight.
Yes,
I think it's a lot tighter. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of high points in number 2. But as far as like consistency stuff goes, I think that 3 is better than 2.
Yeah, I think a good ending is just great. You know, if you can end like your story, like and do it well,
beginning, middle, and an end. You know.
Yeah, I'm almost. I think after the first viewing, I probably would have said 1, 3, 2 as well. I'm half leaning 3, 1, 2 right now. I just think this one just brings so much to the table.
Wow.
I think if there's anything for me that maybe gets it over the hump of number 1 is that I think the High Evolutionary is just a much better villain than Ronan.
I would definitely agree with that.
I think
that's true.
If there's one thing that holds back the first one, it's Ronan for me. I don't think he's bad. I just think he's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty rough though.
And I just think that this one, I think the first one was it's such a heavy lift of getting this team together and making them feel in gel naturally, and it does it so well. And they're all so much fun together, and it's really, I mean, like, if there's emotional moments in the MCU, it's, you said it yourself, bitch, we're the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, when he does that, holding the Power Stone, like, man, like, that's a chills moment for me every time I watch that movie. But I think Guardians Volume 3 is going to get tears out of me every time I watch it in multiple places, and I don't think the first one can even say that. So I almost might give 3 the very slight edge. Very, very slight edge.
I can see it.
So, anyway, bottom line, first and third movies are excellent. I think the second one is also very good. Even if it is probably the weakest of the 3, and I think it's a hell of a trilogy. It does not have the third in the trilogy is always the worst. That's the traditional trajectory of these things. This is, without a doubt, absolutely not the worst of the 3. Any which way you spin it. So, great fucking movie. Great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Great trilogy.
Treat James Gunn well, and he will treat you well.
And it's a movie, the 3 of us, well, we didn't all see it together, but the 3 of us saw it together. You can say that.
With both of
there's
you,
like a transitive property sort of thing going on that gets us there. I think so, yeah.
And that
nice.
makes watching movies so much cooler, when you can watch them together. It's cool.
Yeah.
So,
and then talking about them after.
Yeah. Man, what a deal. Watch, review, repeat.
There you go.
Should we talk about what we've been up to now? Is that a thing we can do?
All right.
Enrique, I'm going to give it to you first.
Okay.
We haven't heard from you in motherfucking months. So
I don't know if I've been to a
I hope we got a long list prepared.
Bonus episode.
No, I don't think that long, honestly. So I'm trying to think back. Let's start with movies. So we obviously heard about this one. I've caught some of the other movies that you've seen. I think the biggest one that I can recommend is Suzume. So that's
No, I don't think either of us caught that.
Makoto Shinkai.
Love to hear about that.
The latest one. And it's great. Like I don't know if anything can ever kind of reach the heights that Your Name hit. It's just, it's kind of in that, it's kind of in like a different tier, but I've only seen 3 of his movies, the 3 latest ones, and I've really enjoyed all 3. And I really liked Suzume. It's different from the other 2, which I really enjoyed. There's definitely that romance, but it's not quite as much. It's almost like a fantasy adventure film. I'll classify as that. And it's just very different. Like I just haven't seen a film with this story like done this way. Like the story itself is, the big plots aren't, completely groundbreaking, but I think the way that he does it is really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's a decently long, I think it's like 2 hours or so for animated film, but it's gorgeous like all of his other films. It's emotional in different ways. I think I cried during this one, but not in the same ways that I did with Your Name. And I don't remember if I cried in Weathering with You, but that had I really enjoyed that love story too. But this is very different, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's just, I highly recommend it if you're into that, which I know both of you are.
Definitely. You did invite me to watch it with you, and I had to respectfully decline because it was like 2 days before we were heading up to New York.
Big trip, yeah.
Europe. So we had some packing to do at that point. Definitely want to catch it at some point, though.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I'm sure I've mentioned it to you two in person, but saw the Mario Brothers, and we saw it together, and Dolby enjoyed that.
It's me, Mario.
It was fun. I don't think it was like my number 1 movie of the year, but we got a good Mario film. It was fun, so I'll take it. And
might be number 1 for box office, though. We'll see.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's true. was just wild. Not a film, but a comedy special. So I watched the John Mulaney. I think it's called Baby J. It's on Netflix. Whatever the latest John Mulaney special is, and I like John Mulaney. I'm not like a huge John Mulaney person, but like I've seen his stuff. And do you know John Mulaney? He is like,
look up John Mulaney.
He's like a very,
knows him. Everyone knows him.
Like I'm sure you've seen him. He has like a very particular like demeanor, and it turns out he was on a lot of drugs before. He was on a lot of drugs, and this comedy special is really his story through addiction and through recovery, and it's really interesting because I think you don't see a lot of comedy shows like this. So I think if you like John Mulaney, it hits those points. But then if you're just kind of interested in hearing about someone's journey through recovery from a comedic lens, then it's an interesting way to go about that.
He looks familiar, but I don't know.
Oh, you definitely have seen him. He used to be a writer on SNL, and then he went on to do like full on stand up comedy, and he's big. So I'm sure you've seen some of his bits. Like he had that one. It was like a Netflix kind of weird special about the Sack Bunch kids, where he brought Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jake Gyllenhaal played the Mr. Music character.
Yeah.
Have you seen this bit? Yeah,
you would have definitely heard him as Spider-Ham in Spider-Man.
Spider-Ham, yes, that's true.
Yes. All right. And so this guy was on some drugs, huh?
Yeah, he was on quite a bit of drugs, and he talks about, and it's really funny just hearing someone who's just like, and Venmo's for drug dealers. I don't know what all you other people are doing on there. He's like, get off of that. It's for us to do our drug deals. But it was fun. So I'd recommend that one. And otherwise, I don't think I've seen that many other movies and whatnot. Just finished up Mando season 3, which I know you covered. Okay.
We did very recently.
There's some good. There's some meh in it. Mostly enjoyable.
think that lines up with what we said, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. So, most enjoyable. It's no Andor. Maybe we can say it. I would say that. I would say that.
we also said that. It's funny.
There you go. That seems to be a sentiment. But I got a lot of stuff I need to watch, so I got to get on it. And I played some games. I finished, at least since the last time I was on, I finished God of War Ragnarok. I know you did too, Andrew. Yeah. I didn't 100% it because I don't 100% most games, but I'm probably like 80 something either. At least. I did like a good chunk. Like I collected a lot of things. I beat several of the bosses. I didn't do every single little thing. It's just too much. And I started Jedi Fallen Order. Maybe only like a few, or not Fallen Order. Survivor. I finished Fallen Order way before. Yeah. Okay. I started Jedi Survivor.
I thought you were going to say you started something else. I don't know if you have or not.
I have not. I have a copy of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It is completely sealed right now. But I think Eastling probably has 20 hours already into the game. But it's just,
what does she think of it? What does she think?
Yeah, she's really good.
She has copies of it. What's going on?
She has a digital for her Switch. And I got the physical copy because I'd be like that. So I have not even started playing it, and I think I just want to be able to like play it and like actually play it, not just like 30 minutes and like 20 minutes and like I want to just kind of sit down.
You have an opportunity, you can like dive in.
Exactly. So this weekend I'll probably pick it up, and I did start one other game. I started Persona Strikers because I think it was before Jedi Survivor came out, and I was just kind of like I need a game to play. I need something. And I was like, why don't I go back to the Persona 5 and play Persona 5 Strikers? And it seems pretty fun so far. I haven't played a ton of that style of game. I forget, there's a name in Japanese for it where it's just like your character and you're just like mowing down people, kind of like Hyrule Warriors.
Oh, it's like the fucking
the
Zelda
kind of
Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
Muso or something like that.
Yeah. You're just like mowing people down. And
I don't like those games,
but it still retains some of the Persona. I definitely prefer the JRPG element, but I think they do this one pretty well. So I think I'll stick around with it. And that's it so far. I need to get back. I need to get on some shows. Ted Lasso season 3, Atlanta I think is finishing up, but I got to get some time. I'm on the clock right now, so we'll see what happens. I think that's it.
All right. Well, you've been up to a few things, certainly. Andrew,
it's been some time, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Catch up. Andrew, what have you been up to?
So I've been playing Jedi Survivor as well. I will say...
question for you then, since you're playing it. What is your lightsaber style that you're
my lightsaber using? Style? So you get in this game, you get to utilize 2 styles out of I think 5. I'm currently using the, so initially I was doing the double-bladed staff kind of style. Mm-hmm. And the like, double blade style. Like,
the dual wield.
Yeah. I have since ditched both of those, and I've gone to crossguard, like...
Oh. The Kylo Ren.
Like a Kylo Ren kind of thing?
Yeah, but it plays like... It plays like a Dark Souls
broadsword.
Yeah,
like a big,
just
heavy,
slow, methodical, super heavy sweeps. Like there was this one time. There's all these enemies around me. They're like these little fucking crab-looking things, and it would be a perfect time for a double-bladed lightsaber because it's the way the game's built. But I've got this like broadsword, but it's like a lightsaber and it's yellow and it's fucking cool. And it's made of fucking wood, and it's white and wood. It's fucking, like leather. It's so fucking cool. I built it myself. Anyways, I didn't build it myself. I actually found the remnants of this lightsaber in this meditation chamber that was sealed up during a cataclysm. It's fucking cool. Anyways, boom, and these crab motherfuckers, they come surround me, and they're like, "Oh, you only got one lightsaber. You're done." Whoom, and I just fucking slice all of them in half at one time. It felt so good. It felt so fucking
stroke.
Yeah. So the slow like swings. There and then like you have this charging overhead swing with the cross guard style, and like it throws people back. So like when you hit them, it'll break their stance and throw them back, and just feel like you feel like a badass. It's real cool.
Yeah.
I also use the blaster style as well, which is pretty neat.
Interesting.
And it's like whenever you take out the last enemy with the blaster style, you like spin it on your finger like you're fucking Clint Eastwood, and then you pocket it.
Put it back.
You also open chests with it, which is pretty fucking cool too. Like you find a chest, and if that's the last style equipped, you like fucking shoot it, and it opens up.
Does blaster style? Do you still use a lightsaber at all with it?
You do. Yeah.
Okay.
So you got a lightsaber.
But it's not like Ezra's, right? Where it's like a blaster.
No,
it's just a separate blaster and lightsaber, but it's just you're not like totally foregoing the use of a lightsaber. Okay.
No, you actually have to use the lightsaber to replenish ammunition with the lightsaber. So it forces you to like bump. It's almost like a fencing style. Like you poke people a lot with it. Poke, and then you dance back and then blast them. But it's really cool. Like if there's somebody far away, like you don't have to rely on ricocheting blaster blasts and stuff. You can just shoot them, which is pretty cool. It's also really cool to like charge up a blast and boom, and you shoot them, and then you pull out your fucking broadsword and whack them. Yeah, fuck them up real cool. Chop off their arms and shit. This game for me, I don't know if any of you guys remember. It was like the first game that like I ever modded on the computer. What the fuck was that? Star Wars. Jedi Outcast. Jedi Outcast. Yeah, this to me is like Jedi Outcast. It's so fucking cool. Like, you know, some of the core characters are real fleshed out. You got to talk to a lot of people. I really don't give a shit about a bunch of that. But the core stuff is really good. The exploration's really cool. Like when you're running the platforming makes you feel like a badass. And just the scope of the environment and the planets and stuff. It's really well done. Really awesome Star Wars game. Thoroughly enjoying it. We also finished up Jury Duty, which was a lot of fun.
We watched that. Yeah, actually.
Did you watch all of it?
I jumped in with my sister, so I missed maybe like a few of the beginning episodes, but we watched all of the ending.
Yeah. And that like we briefly talked earlier, like what would I go to school for or whatever. It would be so incredibly awesome to film a show like Jury Duty. Like just being like a part of the staff or something like that would just be so fun. It would be so cool. Cause like the last episode is all behind the scenes of how they did what they did. And it looks so engaging and fun. Real awesome show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. I think it's really funny and really cool. And I think that's pretty much it. I've been playing a lot of video games. Sarah's not a fan.
Sorry, you don't have a baby yet.
I don't have a lot of time here.
But you do have a pregnant wife.
I don't have a lot of time. I need to get this shit done, and I think I might play Star Wars in the nursery though, like when baby's like trying to go to sleep and stuff. I think I could probably do it then. So
my friend who's a dad of almost a 1-year-old now, he said Pokemon was a great baby game because you don't have to be like focus all your attention. You can just like pause it, do your thing, and then come back and keep playing Pokemon. So maybe pick up some Pokemon.
Yeah, probably no Dark Souls games or their ilk. No. Although I guess Jedi Survivor is kind of a Dark Souls.
A little bit, yeah.
I feel like in terms of gameplay, but
the combat's not as like it can be fat. It can play like Sekiro if you've ever played Sekiro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Sekiro gameplay. I like Dark Souls gameplay, like let me trade hits. And it feels really cinematic too, like when you're playing a boss and you have a lightsaber. Like I almost wish the difficulty level for this game was so much higher, and it was reciprocated, right? Like if you hit somebody with lightsaber,
I was gonna say, I think you can.
You're just dead in one hit.
I think you can make it pretty hard, like the settings.
Full dismemberment. If I hit you with a lightsaber, I'm cutting you in half. And
you're done, and I'm done.
I'm cut in half. Oh, okay, I see.
Like it needs to be equal. But if it's equal, I think you're really onto something. But anyways, that's all I've been up to. What have you been up to, dude?
Well, been up to a few things. So this past weekend was Anna's birthday weekend, so we celebrated, had some folks over.
Happy birthday.
I need to tell Anna happy birthday.
You'll be a little bit late, but that's okay. I'm sure she'll still accept it. So yeah, we had friends over Friday night, which was fun. It was good. And then we spent Saturday and Sunday kind of like relaxing after the frenzy of having people over. Saturday, we got drunk and watched the first 2 High School Musicals on Disney+. I'd never seen any of them.
Oh, really? I guess you don't have a sister, so...
Yes, it's a little bit of a different thing when you have 2 older brothers. I kind of missed the window on High School Musical when it was a thing at the time. I thought the first one was fun. It was solid. Some solid tunes in there. Cringy and, the expected ways. And it's, pretty, it's a Disney Channel original movie and it kind of plays exactly as one. But I had fun with it when I was drunk on a Saturday night. I thought the second one was a little harder to get through. I didn't think it was, I think it kind of, they made it like within like the 9 months after the first one came out. And it kind of just felt like they shat another one out because the first one like blew up in popularity. It wasn't terrible. Same thing, like some good songs here and there, but it just kind of just felt like a little bit of a half-assed rehash of the first one that just wasn't as good.
Have you seen the SNL sketch where it's Zac Efron, I guess, like talking to college people, or he goes to college and then he comes back and he talks to the high school, and you're like, oh, what's college like? And he's like, did you know that nobody sings out in the real world? and you're like, what do you mean? Like, you always have to break out in songs. Did you know also this school sucks? I didn't learn anything. And they're like, no, we learned all about like the lessons of being a team and stuff. And you're like, do you know what the capital of like Wisconsin is? You're like, no. So that's a. I would say now that you've seen it, you should check
that's
check
a good
that
follow up. I'll look for that. No, that sounds good. I'll definitely check that out. Other than that, we started a TV show called The Newsroom. It's an HBO TV show that Anna's seen before. Jeff Daniels is the lead. Emily Mortimer, Dev Patel, a few others, but I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head. It's an Aaron Sorkin show, the West Wing guy, wrote Social Network, and such. And it's very Aaron Sorkin-y. It's preachy. The values of America, blah blah blah. It's kind of like an idealistic take on like what a news program can be, aka not Tucker Carlson and such. But it's good. It's good so far. We're 3 episodes in the first season. And it's very Aaron Sorkin-y in its writing and dialogue style, which I think, having spent as much time as I did watching all of the West Wing, I think I like pretty well. We're only 3 episodes in, so it's hard to get a read on exactly how it will sustain itself over the course of a few seasons. But I'm enjoying it, and Jeff Daniels is a good lead, so I'm curious to give it more of a look. I finished the 2nd season of Abbott Elementary.
Yeah.
So I'm not caught up. So
we're totally caught up on it now. Apparently, NBC announced that because of the writer's strike, they're not like going to make another season, obviously, until it's resolved. So what they're going to do for the next fall cycle is just air reruns and unscripted shit. So it's going to be a while until we get more Abbott Elementary, it sounds like. But it's good. Really enjoyed the season. I think it was better than the first one overall. The ending I thought was a little TV-y in a way that I didn't enjoy, but I think it sounds like everyone here watches and may not be caught up, so I'll leave it at that. But it's definitely worth pressing on to finish up season 2. So outside of that, things that I I almost talked about on the Europe trip special episode, but we ran out of time too because we'd been at it for a long ass time that particular night. I read, while traveling and stuff. So I finished Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, written by unnamed author, and I enjoyed it more this time. It's the second time I've read that book. The first time I read it was when it came out, and I didn't love it. I thought it was kind of a, I don't know, letdown, I think, for the series. But I enjoyed it more this time. I think that reading the whole series in sequence kind of made some of the payoffs make it feel a little bit more natural than I thought maybe the first time around. The epilogue still sucks shit.
That's epilogue.
It's real bad. It's real bad fan fiction. But as a book, I thought it was a solid finale. And that unnamed author, I don't know anything about them. Interesting. Maybe they suck. I seem to think they suck for some reason. Might have talked about that in the past couple episodes for some reason. But I'm done reading Harry Potter for a good while. I'll step away from the series and let the transphobes enjoy their time with it and such.
Go drink a Bud Light.
Other than that, drink a Bud Light. Other than that, I resubscribed to Marvel Unlimited on the trip because I wanted to read some comics, and I started the Daredevil run by Mark Waid, which started in 2011, and it's really good so far. I'm 12 issues in. Technically 13 issues because there was like an issue 10.1, which was supposed to be like a jumping in point if you haven't been following to that point. But it's, I get the impression that basically before that point, Daredevil was a sad sack kind of character. He got possessed by a demon and took over the hand. And like, it was all just like kind of like dark and gritty. And this is like a return to like Daredevil is allowed to be fun and have fun in his life and be affable. And so he's almost like a swashbuckling hero in this. He's got like a love interest that's, not Elektra and not just filled with misery kind of thing. And he's got a good rapport with Foggy. And this is the one, like his Daredevil identity has been outed, but now he's like trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And so I don't know if you've seen like the comic panel of him wearing like the holiday sweater that says "I'm not Daredevil," but it's from this run. And so it's really good fun. And it's had a lot of interesting team ups thus far. There was a thing where he slept with Black Cat and Spider-Man got pissed. Because Spider-Man, I guess, had gotten dumped recently too, and he was trying to, go back to the Black Cat well. There was a team up with Spider-Man and the Punisher as well, which was good. But yeah, and he's kind of fought like non-traditional Daredevil villains, like kind of pulling from others. So he fought against Claw in the first arc. He's fought against Mole Man, and like a lot of crime organizations and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it. I think it's like 30-ish issues. The whole run ran from 2011 to 2014. And yeah, it's just kind of refreshing. I don't read comics as much as I used to, but I'm trying to get back into it, get back into the feel of it. And I'm also like, now that I finished Harry Potter, I'm just like trying to like spread myself too thin of like reading a bunch of shit. So I picked up Edge Dancer, reading that, the Brandon Sanderson novella. I'm going to try to get back into Stormlight a little bit. I have Dave Grohl's book, The Storyteller, and I've read a couple chapters out of that as well. So I'm kind of like bouncing around a few different things that I'm reading, both book-wise and comic-wise and stuff. So video game-wise, Fire Emblem Engage is it, but I really want to... I think I have to decide whether I want to play Zelda or Star Wars right now, and I'll wait and play the other one later in the year. And I'm leaning towards Zelda because, as I said to Andrew before we started recording, I think that Star Wars is more likely to have a price drop. In due time.
I mean, one
Zelda
Nintendo,
will never go down in price. So that's where I'm at. Kind of just doing a few different things, kicking the tires on a few different things. But yeah. I want to see some movies too. I want to see Evil Dead. Still haven't seen that. Evil Dead Rise. Comics wise, I wouldn't mind reading some Guardian stuff. I would do the Abbott and Lanning run at some point, maybe once I finish Daredevil. So I read some of it like way back. I wouldn't even mind. I started that Guardians game that they put out, which was
you totally reminded me. Yeah, that's a great game.
So I wouldn't mind going back to that. I'm kind of feeling the cosmic things, so.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great story too. It's like very
it's more comic booky.
It's like it's more comic booky, but like takes elements of the movies, but definitely more closer to the comics.
Yeah. So
really great story. Yeah.
I might go back and I might just restart it. I think I barely put like 2-3 hours in it, so I'd be able to restart it. So that might be one I fire up at some point. Yeah. Now that I'm kind of in the Guardians mood. So, so yeah, that is it for me. Is that it for everyone?
Yeah, that's about it.
Mind? Well, let me say right now, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. We are on Patreon at patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. You can get early access to all of our regular episodes, time exclusive access to some bonus episodes that we may put out the rest of this year. Early access like you would have gotten to the special episode that we did, so even if it wasn't a bonus episode, sometimes we have special episodes. Our website's watchreviewrepeat.com. We are on socials at WRRpod on Twitter, facebook.com/watchreviewrepeat on, you guessed it, Facebook, and at Watch Review Repeat on Instagram. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, anything else, you can send those our way to watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod and Compotech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And before I take us fully out, let me say a big thank you to Henrique Jaime for hanging out with us, talking Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in a good amount of detail. But you know what? It's a film that deserves it, I think. So thank you.
Nope, always glad to come by, and especially when it's for a really great film. So makes it worth it.
Definitely.
Always a pleasure, sir. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
And I think up next, we'll see. I mean, we could go back to Evil Dead Rise. Fast X is just a few days away. We've got options. We've got some few things to round out May with. So we'll see. We'll see what we have cooked up for you guys. So, Andrew, why don't you take us out?
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Laters on the Menjay. A-holes.